I'm the son of the heavenly emperor. I'm the favored prodigy of the true dragons. I even obtained the inheritance of the great emperor. I'm the son of the heavenly emperor. I'm the favored prodigy of the true dragons. I even obtained the inheritance of the great emperor. Why should I lose? On what basis? Long Shan roared in his heart. The mysterious power in the depths of his bloodline was activated. Boom! He erupted with a terrifying aura. Like a volcano erupting, he broke through the sword chi and sword shadows, and the surrounding land was crushed into ashes. High in the sky, Hanju saw a silver pillar of light shoot into the sky, directly dissipating the 3 pure world cleansing sea of sword chi. Hanju raised his eyebrows. This fellow gained a power-up? If this isn't the protagonist's treatment, what is? However, I love suppressing the protagonist. Hanju immediately activated the 6 paths dermic powers and slashed out another sea of sword chi, layer after layer. A total of 9 layers of sword chi. This was what Hanju had comprehended previously. He couldn't increase the strength of the 3 pure world cleansing, so it was better to increase the quantity. The 9 layers of sword chi were equivalent to 9 overlapping 3 pure world cleansing. This move consumed a lot of Hanju's dermic powers. If not for the fact that the 6 paths of reincarnation technique was an immortal emperor's cultivation technique, he wouldn't have been able to squander his dermic powers like this. 3 pure world cleansing, 9 heavens. The 9-layered sword chi sea quickly condensed sword shadows. There were countless of them, stunning all the mortals in the world. Most of the mortals couldn't see that it was Hanju using a mystical power. They thought that it was an immortal god preparing to unleash heavenly punishment and destroy the world. Oh my God, who can save us? Why? Why do the immortal gods want to kill us? What did we do wrong? The heavenly Tao is unfair. Immortal gods are heartless. Immortal gods are heartless. All the living beings in the world were wailing. As the battle between Hanju and Long Shan continued, it was difficult for the world to withstand the battle between heaven immortals. All sorts of natural disasters kept appearing. In the numinous palace, the immortals were also stunned by this move. Does this kid have unlimited dermic powers? His comprehension of the sword Tao is extremely deep. That's not right. His Highness obtained the great emperor's inheritance. Could this kid be the same? His cultivation technique is not simple. Perhaps he also has an immortal emperor inheritance. Not necessarily. His Highness is about to use his full strength. Long Shan ascended to the sky and widened his eyes when he saw the sea of sword chi. He felt helpless for the first time. Who was this person? Was he really a heaven immortal? No. I can't lose to someone at the same cultivation level. Long Shan suppressed his uneasiness with anger. He raised his right hand, and the trident flew back to him. With a shake of his body, he transformed into a 10,000 feet long white dragon. His face was ferocious, and his fangs were sharp like blades. His dragon eyes were bloodshot, like 2 huge beads of blood. Roaring, he charged at Hanju. The 3-headed and 6-armed Hanju was expressionless. He gently waved his sword, and the billions of sword shadows condensed from the 9-layered sword chi sea landed. At this moment, Hanju seemed to be the god of war, who wielded the heavenly constellation and controlled the heavenly punishment. 3 pure world cleansing. 9 heavens was basically the heavenly punishment. Having transformed into a dragon, Long Shan couldn't care less. He lost his mind and rushed towards Hanju at full speed. Millions of sword shadows descended. In the eyes of all living beings, the sky collapsed. Boom! 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 Countless sword shadows landed on the white dragon, who roared and continued forward. He only had eyes for Hanju. When he was less than 1,000 meters away from him, he was still forced to the ground by the 3 pure world cleansing. Countless sword shadows fell like a torrential rain. Hanju was high up in the rain and looked down coldly. The white dragon wailed as it was pressed down on the ground again, enduring the pain brought by the 3 pure world cleansing. The entire mortal world shook. Soon, the white dragon was covered in blood, and white bones could be seen. Hanju was expressionless, but he was panicking inside. The heavenly emperor was still not speaking? If this continued, he would really kill Long Shan. In that case, he and the heavenly court would fight to the death. He wasn't afraid. At most, he would escape. But then this world would be completely ruined. Follow new episodes on the light novel world. Com platform. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't compete with the entire heavenly court. At the same time, the immortals in the numinous palace were also anxious. Your Majesty, isn't it over? His Highness can't hold on much longer. This child is clearly waiting for the heavenly court to react. Otherwise, His Highness would already be dead. That's right. He didn't kill giant spiritual martial god earlier as well. I think we can accept him. Even the literature immortals started to change sides. Hanju's talent was too amazing. It would be a pity to kill such a prodigy, but letting him go would be even worse. The heavenly emperor's eyes flickered, but he did not reply. The divine general stood calmly, without trying to persuade the heavenly emperor. Hanju watched as Longshan's body was destroyed, leaving only his essence soul. Longshan only had 1 star of hatred towards him. At this point, his hatred had yet to increase. He had decent morals. Join the heavenly court. A vast and domineering voice entered Hanju's ears. Voice transmission technique? Hanju immediately understood. Detected that the heavenly emperor has invited you to join the heavenly court. You have the following choices. 1. Agree. Obtain the favor of the heavenly emperor. You can obtain a heavenly Tao spirit stone. 2. Reject. Obtain the hatred of the heavenly emperor and the endless pursuit of the heavenly court. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance and a supreme treasure. 3 lines of words appeared in front of Hanju. When he saw the second option, he couldn't help but be speechless. Hanju asked in his heart, what about the mortal world? No more cleansing. The heavenly troops will retreat immediately. I'll join. But can you give me some time? I don't want to ascend now. Visit Light Novel World. Com for the best novel reading experience. Alright, I agree to join the heavenly court. Hanju stopped. 3 pure world cleansing, 9 heavens vanished. Longshan's soul lay in the huge pit, on the verge of death. The heavenly troops heaved a sigh of relief. If Longshan died in front of them, they would all have to die with him. At this moment, the heavenly emperor's voice resounded through the world. This mortal world was infiltrated by the devils and should have been wiped out. However, someone stood out and used his aptitude to exchange for peace. Hopefully, everyone will remember his contribution today. Heavenly troops retreat. Restart the heavenly rules. The world fell silent. All the natural disasters stopped as if a mysterious force was calming everything. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. The heavenly emperor had indeed kept his promise. The heavenly emperor has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability. 3 stars. You chose to join the heavenly court and obtained a heavenly Tao spirit stone. The heavenly troops immediately left with giant spiritual martial gods and Longshan souls. Hanju followed and checked his interpersonal relationships. The image of the heavenly emperor was very domineering. This fellow looked very similar to the heavenly emperor in Hanju's imagination. In Hanju's opinion, the heavenly emperor should be high and mighty, like Qin Shi Huang, and not the weak jade emperor in Journey to the West. Heavenly emperor, cultivation unknown. Lord of the heavenly court, immeasurable emperor. He controls all the immortals and gods. His temperament is unfathomable. Because of your talent, he has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability. 3 stars. What was the immeasurable emperor? Hanju was secretly curious. He turned around and flew back to the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain. The Jade Pure Sacred Sect was cheering, because they saw Hanju leave the mountain. The person who saved the world and obtained the recognition of the heavenly court was their deity-slaying elder. When he arrived at the Fusang tree, the disciples were all pleasantly surprised. The Black Hell Chicken asked excitedly, "We don't have to run anymore?" Hanju smiled and nodded. Yes. The others surrounded him, each more excited than the last. Fong Liang asked excitedly, "Grandmaster, are you going to the heavenly court?" Hanju smiled and said, "Not yet. The source of this content is Light Novel World." Calm, although he survived this tribulation, he didn't want to go to the heavenly court immediately. It would be troublesome. He had definitely offended many immortals in this battle. Read at Wuxia World. EU. The immortal gods retreated. The mortal world was peaceful. The immortal gods retreated. The mortal world was peaceful. For a time, the world was filled with laughter. The Jade Pure Sacred Sect was even more joyous and lively. Hanju chatted with his disciples for a while before returning to the cave abode. He had benefited greatly from this battle. Divine General's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability: 3 stars. Wen Xuxing's hatred towards you has decreased. Current hatred points: 1 star. Ditai Bai has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability: 2 stars. Thunder God has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability: 2 stars. Xu Jingxing has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability: 1 star. Marshal Shunpeng has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability: 1 star. A series of notifications appeared in front of Hanju. Most of them were favorable impressions. The immortals weren't stupid. Hanju's performance was enough for him to become the next divine general, so they naturally wanted to rope him in. Of course, some immortals were secretly jealous. However, they didn't expect Hanju to be able to see their favor and hatred. Hanju stabilized his state of mind. Today's battle made him realize his shortcomings. Previously, he had killed those above his realm instantly. Now he needed some time to fight them. Although Long Shan was also not simple, and was a genius of the heavenly court, it still made Hanju uneasy. No, I have to increase my strength. The higher the cultivation realm, the smaller the difference between those of the same cultivation realm. Hanju didn't want to be unable to defeat enemies of the same cultivation realm in the future. Thinking of this, Hanju perked up. He had to work harder. Time passed. Visit Light Novel World. Calm for a better experience. 10 years passed after the heavenly troops left. Peace returned to the mortal world. The fiendish cultivators were almost extinct. Previously, the devils had caused the heavenly court to clean up the mortal world, causing the righteous path and the demons to hate the devils. The fiends were also afraid of the immortals from the upper world. Therefore, the fiendish cultivators had repented one after another. The Jade Pure Sacred Sect knew that it was Hanju who fought against the immortal gods, causing this matter to spread throughout the world. Portraits and statues of him were everywhere. Of course, the drawing was not accurate. The image of the statue was also very different from Hanju's. For 10 years, the immortal gods did not descend into the mortal world again. Hanju also cultivated in peace. On this day, Ji Xianxian came to visit. The two of them met in the forest. You want to ascend? Hanju asked in surprise. Ji Xianxian nodded. The immortal god calamity has passed. There's no need for me to stay in the mortal world anymore. Besides, I'm different from you. I don't have the means to stay in the mortal world. I don't want to acknowledge you as my master. Hanju remained silent. Ji Xianxian asked, when will you ascend? Hanju replied, we'll see. He would be a soldier once he entered the heavenly court. How troublesome. Ji Xianxian snorted. Then, I'll go to the heavenly court first and look after you in the future. He immediately regretted it after saying that. The current Hanju was already so strong that even if he ascended, he might not be able to surpass him. No, I can't think like that. I'll surpass him sooner or later. I was born to be the strongest. Ji Xianxian's gaze was firm. Hanju smiled and said, then I wish you a bright future. Ji Xianxian's mood improved. He asked, when will Fong Liang ascend? Follow current novels on Light Novel World. Com depends. The two of them fell silent. Finally, Ji Xianxian left. Hanju was about to turn around and leave when he bumped into someone. The Heavenly Emperor. Hanju retreated in fear. He had always remembered the image of the Heavenly Emperor. After all, he was a big shot. The Heavenly Emperor looked as tall as him. He wore a white robe and was not as domineering as he looked. He also had a scholarly aura. Hanju took a deep breath and calmed down. The Heavenly Emperor had a 3-star favorability towards him. He shouldn't harm him. The Heavenly Emperor smiled and said, Hanju, when I asked Shaner to deal with you, I wanted him to go all out and fight you with the determination to kill. Hanju was silent and looked at him quietly. It wasn't that I wanted him to kill you. I just wanted to see your potential. You didn't let me down. The Heavenly Emperor's smile was very kind and did not give off any pressure. Hanju asked in surprise. You wanted me to join you from the start? The Heavenly Emperor placed his hands behind his back and smiled. You're not simple. You don't cultivate the grand unity Tao, but you can attract many people with great providence. Even the jinx of my heavenly court has acknowledged you as his master. Perhaps you have a destiny that even I can't see through. Hanju was secretly shocked. On second thought, it made sense. What kind of existence was the Heavenly Emperor? How could he not see through Su Qi's foundation? Are you afraid of trouble, and don't want to enter the Heavenly Court? Is that why you're stalling? How can that be? I can see very little karma in your life. You have interacted with fewer people than mortals, who have lived an entire lifetime. I was curious, and deduced the first half of your life. I didn't expect you to be a freak, who had been cultivating since you were young. A freak? Hanju felt humiliated. The Heavenly Emperor smiled. If you don't want to enter the Heavenly Court and get involved in trouble, that's fine. Follow new episodes on the light novel world.com platform. Hanju was stunned. The Heavenly Emperor was letting him go. I'll let you replace Qi Yunxian and become an immortal official in this mortal world. How about that? As for Qi Yunxian, I know that you have a good relationship with him. He will be promoted. No immortals will disturb you usually. In terms of treatment, I'll let you enjoy cultivation resources like my son Shaner. When you become stronger, you can become the second divine general of the Heavenly Court. Replacing Qi Yunxian? Hanju was tempted. The Heavenly Emperor continued. Normally, you don't have to go to the Numinous Palace to attend our court meetings. I will send someone to find you if necessary. If you have any requests, you can ask him for help. After all, I'm the Heavenly Emperor. I can't always be around you. Understanding what he meant, Hanju asked carefully, Are you trying to conceal me? This treatment was too good, and it also suited Hanju's intentions. But from another point of view, it was equivalent to depriving him of authority and fame. The Heavenly Emperor said calmly, The Heavenly Court is deep and complicated. I want you to be mine and not the Heavenly Court's. Do you agree? Hanju wasn't stupid. This was a matter of choosing sides. If he refused, he would be dead. Moreover, the Heavenly Emperor was very sincere and didn't beat around the bush. It suited Hanju's taste. Being with the Heavenly Emperor shouldn't be bad. Hanju said, Of course. To be honest, I don't dare to ascend because I don't have a backer in the upper world. I still have many enemies. The Heavenly Emperor smiled faintly. You killed the people they planted in the mortal world, right? From now on, I'm your greatest backer. The Vermilion Bird clan and the Dragon Immortal Island will no longer make things difficult for you. Of course, you can't cause trouble unless others provoke you. In addition, don't spread this conversation and don't tell Qi Yunxian. The mighty leader of the Heavenly Court still had to keep it a secret. The dangers within the court were truly unfathomable. Hanju nodded. Don't worry. You should have already observed my character from the first half of my life. The Heavenly Emperor's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 4 stars. The Heavenly Emperor raised his right hand, and a scroll appeared in his palm. This is the Sword Tao inheritance of the Heavenly Court. You should like it. Hanju caught the scroll, and was about to speak when he looked up. The Heavenly Emperor had already disappeared. As expected of the immeasurable Emperor, he really came and went without a trace. Hanju opened the scroll and saw 3 words. Heavenly Sword Tao. Visit Light Novel World.com for a better experience read at Wuxia World. EU. After returning to the Khanate cave abode, Hanju took out the Heavenly Sword Tao scroll and began to comprehend it. After returning to the Khanate cave abode, Hanju took out the Heavenly Sword Tao scroll and began to comprehend it. A technique given by the Heavenly Emperor was definitely not simple. Tao Comprehension Sword asked curiously, What's this? Hanju replied, A sword Tao. Tao Comprehension Sword's eyes lit up. Can I learn it? Hanju looked up at her and snorted. I'll teach you after I learn it. If Tao Comprehension Sword could become stronger, Hanju would naturally be happy. She couldn't continue being just a decoration. Besides, Hanju believed that he could obtain stronger mystical powers in the future. He wasn't afraid of teaching his disciples, and having them overtake him. With Tao Comprehension Sword's feelings for him, it was impossible for her to betray him. Even if she did, Hanju had already left the Six Paths insignia. There were many ways to resolve it. This might be unfair to Tao Comprehension Sword, but one had to be wary of others no matter what. Even if it was the woman closest to him, Hanju couldn't trust her completely. Longevity was the top priority. He couldn't be blinded by emotions. Hanju stopped thinking and focused on comprehending it. The more he looked at it, the more shocked he became. This heavenly sword Tao was something. That's it. It could definitely help him increase his strength. Numinous Palace. The heavenly emperor sat on his throne and resumed his arrogant and domineering attitude. There was only one person in the hall, a white-bearded old immortal. This immortal was called Di Tai Bai, and his status in the heavenly court was equivalent to the leader of the literature immortals. Di Tai Bai asked curiously, "Your Majesty, did you really reward the heavenly sword Tao to that person?" The heavenly emperor said, "Yes. With his aptitude, he should be able to master it completely in less than 1,000 years. Di Tai Bai sighed. It's only a matter of time before the heavenly court flourishes with such a genius. I don't plan on letting him be part of the band of immortals. At least, I won't consider it until he becomes a golden immortal. That's good too. He won't be targeted by the Divine Palace, Buddhist sect and demon court. In the future, you will be in charge of him. If he has any needs, as long as he doesn't cross the line, you will do your best to satisfy him. If anyone harms him, you will also step in. Do you understand?" "Understood." "How's Shaner?" "His Highness has already recovered his physical body, and his Tao heart is stable. He doesn't hate Hanju or you. Instead, he feels that he's not strong or hardworking enough." "Good, he has greater character and drive than his siblings." The heavenly emperor smiled and looked outside the numinous palace. Di Tai Bai hesitated for a moment before saying, "The reincarnation of the immortal emperor of the Divine Palace has already awakened the Emperor Tao. The Buddhist sect and the Divine Palace seem to." The heavenly emperor snorted. "They have colluded, right? The heavenly court is the orthodox lineage recognized by the Tao ancestor. Now that the Tao ancestor has been in seclusion for countless years, they all want to overthrow the heavenly court's rule. It's fine. The heavenly court also has its own connections. We won't collapse." Di Tai Bai smiled and nodded, seeming to have thought of something. The heavenly emperor said meaningfully, "That person in the netherworld seems to have established some kind of agreement with Hanju. If the demon saint's soul is transferred to his mortal world, you will help hide this matter. Of course, you can't let that person in the netherworld know that it's my intention." Di Tai Bai was stunned and quickly agreed. 5 years later, Hanju had completely mastered the heavenly sword Tao. He couldn't help but sigh. This sword Tao was truly unfathomable. Even with his top-notch sword Tao potential and top-notch sword Tao comprehension, he actually took 5 years to completely master it. If it was anyone else, they would probably never be able to learn it in their lifetime. The heavenly sword Tao was divided into 4 levels. Follow new episodes on the Light Novel World. Com platform. First level, Sword Pierces Heaven. Second level, Severing Karma. Third level, Sword Creates the Primordial World. Fourth level, Immortal Slaying Sword Formation. When Hanju first saw the Immortal Slaying Sword Formation, he couldn't help but recall the one from the Investiture of the Gods. Only the 4 saints could break it. After he mastered the Immortal Slaying Sword Formation, he understood that it was not as invincible as he had imagined. The power of the formation in the heavenly sword Tao depended on the sword's power. Hanju immediately entered the simulation trial. Previously, when he fought with Long Shan and giant spiritual martial god, he had already let the system copy their strength. With the heavenly sword Tao, Hanju instantly killed Long Shan. He had only used the first level of the sword Tao, Sword Pierces Heaven, against giant spiritual martial god. It was also an instant kill. Hanju tried fighting the 2 of them at once. He still insta-killed them. The heavenly sword Tao was very powerful. Hanju was happy. He raised his finger and taught Tao comprehension, Sword the first level of the heavenly sword Tao. A beam of light entered Tao comprehension sword's forehead, and her body trembled, before she entered a mysterious state of comprehension. Hanju continued cultivating and strove to reach the late stage of the reincarnation heaven immortal realm as soon as possible. Although the Heavenly Emperor had become his backer, he wouldn't entrust everything to him. Everything still depended on himself. Time passed. 20 years passed in a flash. The calamity of the Heavenly Court decades ago had completely passed, and the world no longer mentioned it. The cultivation world had also returned to normal. Some people fought, some ascended, and some also preached about the world. Because of Hanju, the Jade Pure Sacred Sect had benefited greatly. It had already become a holy land of the 10 states and 9 dynasties. A continuous stream of itinerant cultivators and mortals came to worship it. Hanju wasn't disturbed the entire time. He cultivated in peace, and successfully broke through to the late stage of the reincarnation heaven immortal realm. This content is taken from Light Novel World. Come on this day. Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain welcomed a guest. It was Ditaibai. He directly stepped into the cultivate diligently become immortal mountain and ignored the mountain protecting array formation. Even the defensive array formation of the Dao field was useless. Yang Tiandong, Chu Shuren Fongliang, and the others were frightened. They all stood up, thinking that he was an enemy. Ditaibai smiled and said, "Don't panic. I'm an immortal god of the heavenly court. I'm here to offer an immortal position to Hanju." Everyone looked at each other. Ditaibai glanced at the Fusang tree and was secretly shocked. So it was the Fusang tree. No wonder he could cultivate in the mortal world. Ditaibai walked towards the Khanate cave abode. Hanju opened the entrance and chased Dao Comprehension Sword out. After entering the residence, Ditaibai and Hanju greeted each other. Hanju also learned his identity. Ditaibai, perfected Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm, a second-grade literature immortal of the Heavenly Court. He is the leader of the literature immortals, and is one of the right-hand men of the Heavenly Emperor. He is deeply trusted, because of your potential, and the Heavenly Emperor's favorability towards you. He has a good impression of you. Current favorability. 3 stars previously, it was a 2-star favorability. Now it had increased by 1 star. It was worth mentioning that the system could detect the perfected Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. However, Di Hongya, the Divine General, and the Heavenly Emperor's cultivation levels couldn't be shown. This meant that the 3 of them were at least immortal emperors. Ditaibai took out a golden token from his sleeve and said, "This is a Heavenly Dao token. It can allow the Heavenly Dao in charge of this mortal world to contact me through this token. If you have any needs or troubles in the future, you can look for me and place a soul mark on it." Hanju smiled and accepted the token. Ditaibai didn't leave immediately, and started to converse with him to get closer. The heavenly sword Dao that His Majesty gave you is not simple. If you can learn it in 1,000 years, it shouldn't be difficult for you to become an immortal emperor in the future. Ditaibai smiled. 1,000 years? That long? The source of this content is Light Novel World. Hanju was puzzled. Ditaibai sighed. Don't you think it's exaggerated? In the past, a sword immortal in the Heavenly Court used 10,000 years to learn it. He once severed the River of Destiny with a single strike and shocked the heavens, causing all the major factions to have no choice but to repair it. Read at Wuxia World. EU. Sever the River of Destiny? Sever the River of Destiny? So powerful? Although Hanju had grasped the heavenly sword Dao, he wasn't that strong. This was normal. No matter how powerful a mystical power was, it still depended on one's cultivation level. Hanju asked curiously, "What's the River of Destiny? Is it like the Sword Dao River? It doesn't exist on the surface but in a deeper space?" Ditaibai replied, "That's right. The River of Destiny holds the destiny of everyone. If it's broken, all lives will be lost. Therefore this is a taboo. All forces have to maintain it." Hanju was deep in thought. This cultivation path was more complicated than he had imagined. When you master the heavenly sword Dao, remember to tell me. I have to tell His Majesty about this, and make him happy. Ditaibai stroked his beard and smiled. Hanju hesitated. Should he come clean? If his talent was too exaggerated, would it attract the Heavenly Emperor's fear? But on second thought, who was the heavenly emperor? Would he fear a junior? If that was the case, how could the divine general from back then survive? There was no need to hide. Hanju said. To be honest, I've already grasped the heavenly sword Dao. Ditaibai smiled and said, not bad, not bad. You learned what? You mastered it? Stop bragging. This leader of the literature immortals couldn't remain calm. Impossible. That was the heavenly sword Dao. Hanju said helplessly. I can't prove it by attacking you, right? Besides, the mortal world can't endure such a commotion. If you don't believe me, we can go to the void to affirm it. Above the mortal world was the starry sky. Above the starry sky was not the immortal world, but a void with nothing. Ditaibai immediately said, let's go. He waved his right hand. In a flash, Hanju arrived in a dark space. There was no light, but the two of them were immortals. Their bodies emitted a faint divine light. Use your heavenly sword Dao against me with all your might, Ditaibai said. Follow new episodes on the light novel world. Com platform. Hanju didn't hold back. 5 minutes later, the void returned to tranquility. Ditaibai looked at him with a complicated expression. Hanju was the same. This fellow was actually a sword cultivator. Wait, could it be that the sword immortal that Ditaibai had bragged about earlier was himself? Crap. In that case, didn't I slap him in the face? It was not my intention. Hanju only wanted to gain benefits and become stronger. He didn't want to gain enemies. Fortunately, Ditaibai was not a petty person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have changed from 1-star hatred points to 3-star favorability. Ditaibai sighed. I underestimated you. His Majesty also underestimated you. Ditaibai's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 4 stars. Hanju hesitated. About this, Ditaibai smiled and said, don't worry. In this world, only you, me, and His Majesty will know. No fourth person will find out. Hanju was completely relieved and smiled. I will immediately inform His Majesty about this. This is the fortune of our heavenly court. Ditaibai smiled and sent him back to his cave abode. Next he returned to heavenly court. Hanju didn't think too much and continued cultivating. Dao Comprehension Sword returned to the cave abode. She pouted and asked, who is that old man? Hanju replied, what does that have to do with you? Have you learned the heavenly sword Dao? For more, visit Light Novel World. It's so difficult. I have yet to comprehend it. Then why aren't you working hard? There's nothing to think about all day. I only used less than half a year for the first level of the heavenly sword Dao. What about you? It's been 20 years. I was wrong. Dao Comprehension Sword was ashamed. She felt that her aptitude was too poor, and she had let him down. Hanju snorted. You must master it within 100 years. Otherwise, I won't teach you the next levels. Alright. Dao Comprehension Sword's fighting spirit was ignited, and her eyes lit up. Although the heavenly sword Dao was vast and profound, ever since she started learning it, her cultivation speed and strength had steadily increased. Most importantly, Hanju didn't teach this sword Dao to anyone. Dao Comprehension Sword felt that she was receiving special treatment, and was naturally in a good mood. Numinous Palace. The Heavenly Emperor was moved. It's only been 25 years, but he has already grasped the heavenly sword Dao. Ditaibai suppressed his excitement and said, that's right. I've already tested it. It's indeed the heavenly sword Dao. He can even use the immortal slaying sword formation. The heavenly emperor was in a daze. The hall fell silent. Ditaibai didn't dare to disturb the heavenly emperor's thoughts and remained silent. There were only the two of them in the hall. After a long while, the heavenly emperor sighed. I really underestimated him. Ditaibai also smiled and said, Your Majesty is truly wise. You spared his life. Otherwise, he would have died decades ago. The heavenly emperor smiled. There's a Fusang tree on the Cultivate Diligently Become Immortal mountain. Let's give him some immortal water that can help the tree to grow. As for Dao techniques, we won't give them for the time being. This kid's cultivation technique is not simple. He probably obtained the inheritance of an immortal emperor, the heavenly emperor said. Ditaibai said in surprise, an immortal emperor's inheritance? Then are we? The heavenly emperor waved his sleeve. Which immortal emperor can compare to me? Besides, Hanju has too little karma. I guess that immortal emperor doesn't care about him. 10,000 years later, even if that immortal emperor gets tempted, will Hanju listen to him or me? Don't keep thinking about potential danger. We need to invest first. Prodigies like Hanju and the divine general will definitely not be willing to submit to others. When Hanju becomes an immortal emperor himself, how can he put another immortal emperor in his eyes? Dai Bai was filled with admiration and hurriedly bowed. Follow current novels on Light Novel World. Calm seeming to have thought of something, he said. A mortal named Ji Xianxian ascended. He has a karmic relationship with Hanju. Previously, they agreed to fight against the heavenly troops. The heavenly emperor said, arrange for him to get a heavenly general position. He will be given 7th grade treatment. Tell him not to reveal anything about Hanju. Understood. In the blink of an eye, another 7 years passed. Dai Bai had sent some immortal water to the Fusang tree during this period. There were a total of 7 bottles, which could help the Fusang tree grow faster. 1 bottle would be used every 10 years. Hanju was very happy. His favorability towards the heavenly emperor increased greatly. He personally watered the Fusang tree with immortal water. On this day, Hanju thought of the heavenly Tao token. He was now considered an immortal god, but he had yet to make the heavenly Tao token recognize him as its master. That was quite irresponsible. The process of using a soul mark to make the token recognize him as its master was not complicated. In less than 2 hours, Hanju grasped the heavenly Tao token. At the same time, he sensed the heavenly Tao in the mortal world. It was the starry sky of the universe above the sky. It was like a painting that enveloped the mortal world. Through the heavenly Tao token, Hanju could look down on the entire world and even see every mortal. He tried to look at Zhou Fan and quickly caught sight of him. Zhou Fan was cultivating in a holy land. He looked at his other friends and easily found them. Is this the feeling of an immortal god? How satisfying. Hanju's divine sense caught a stone tablet in the heavenly Tao token and stood in the darkness. After his divine sense entered the stone tablet, a huge amount of information entered his consciousness. It was actually the ranking of the myriad worlds. Hanju's mortal world was called the Scarlet Cloud World. It was probably named by Qi Yunxian. It was ranked 4,932. It was not a high ranking, nor was it too low. There were more than 9,000 mortal worlds. There are still rankings among the mortal worlds? Interesting. Hanju didn't think too much about it. He couldn't be bothered to help the Scarlet Cloud World climb up in ranking. This was good. Being in the middle meant it was not eye-catching. It was unknown how the ranking was calculated. He had to ask Dai Bai when he had the chance. The source of this content is Light Novel World. Come read at Wuxia World. EU. Hanju placed the heavenly Tao token into the little universe belt. He then took out the Book of Misfortune and the heavenly Tao Spirit Stone and started to help the Book of Misfortune level up. Hanju placed the heavenly Tao token into the little universe belt. He then took out the Book of Misfortune and the heavenly Tao Spirit Stone and started to help the Book of Misfortune level up. Although it seemed peaceful now, and he had a strong backing, he couldn't relax. Even the heavenly court was threatened by the Buddhist sect. In the immortal world, the heavenly court was not the strongest force. After a long while, a line of words appeared in front of him. Book of Misfortune upgraded to a Supreme Grade Grand Unity Supreme Treasure. Treasures were classified as Dharma Artifact, Numinous Treasure, Supreme Grade Numinous Treasure, Grand Unity Numinous Treasure, Supreme Grade Grand Unity Numinous Treasure, Grand Unity Supreme Treasure, and Supreme Grade Grand Unity Supreme Treasure. Hanju tried it after raising its level. He cursed Taoist Dan Qing first. After cursing for 5 days, his lifespan began to decrease. Hanju remembered this time. He could curse the same person for no more than 5 days. Hanju continued cursing, including the immortals in the heavenly court who hated him. While cursing, he checked his emails. The last time he checked his emails was 10 years ago. Your good friend Ji Xianxian was attacked by a heavenly soldier, X10006. Your good friend Mo Fuzhou has returned to the mortal world. Your grand disciple Feng Liang dreamed of the primordial era. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your Dao companion Xing Hongxian was attacked by demon beasts. X8653. Your Dao companion Xing Hongxian encountered a fortuitous encounter, and her cultivation level increased. Your good friend Long Shan was attacked by demon beasts. X230584. Your good friend Zhou Fan obtained the dragon bone, and his body transformed. Updated from Light Novel World. The cultivation world began to stir again, but many people still obtained opportunities. Hanju noticed the news about Long Shan. The number of times he had been attacked was a little exaggerated. Could it be that he had been thrown into the demon region by the Heavenly Emperor? Long Shan used to have 1 star of hatred towards Hanju, but for some reason, it became 2 stars of favorability. The Heavenly Emperor probably did a lot of persuasion. Hanju watched for a while, and then focused on cursing. Now that he was already an immortal, he naturally could not interfere with the matters of the mortal world. Even if the world had changed, he still had to continue cultivating. Hanju's next target was the true immortal realm. I should break through to the true immortal realm as soon as possible. Spring passed and autumn came. 25 years passed. Hanju had yet to break through to the perfected reincarnation heaven immortal realm. On this day, he walked out of the cave abode and came to the Fusang tree. Under the Fusang tree, other than the black hell chicken, the 2 golden crows, the 3-headed W-worm king, Tu Linger, and Chu Shuren, the others went out to train. Ever since he became an immortal god, Hanju no longer restricted them. In any case, it was impossible for anyone to cause trouble in his mortal world. After being irrigated by the heavenly quartz immortal water, the Fusang tree was already 3,000 feet tall. It was an extremely spectacular sight. It was already the most amazing scene in the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. The 7 seeds of the Earth Immortal Gourd Vine were also growing continuously. It was unknown when they would be able to give birth to a living being. Master, I have some questions regarding cultivation. Can you guide me? Tu Linger came over and asked with a smile. She finally had a chance. Hanju asked, tell me. Tu Linger was indeed puzzled about her cultivation. However, after Hanju's explanation, she didn't stop and started chatting with him. Hanju knew what she was thinking, but he didn't care. Follow new episodes on the Light Novel World. Platform. He looked at Chu Shuren and said, look at your disciple nephew. His cultivation level is almost catching up to yours. Chu Shuren's cultivation level had already reached the 8th level of the Void Amalgamation realm, and was already close to the Body Integration realm. Tu Linger was at the Body Integration realm, still a distance away from the Tribulation Transcendence realm. Hearing this, Tu Linger immediately felt awkward. She fled and focused on cultivating. Chu Shuren stood up and came in front of Hanju. After bowing, he hesitated. Hanju smiled and asked, what? You still want to persuade me to give up cultivating? Chu Shuren took a deep breath and said, that's right. Grandmaster, you're already an immortal. You can completely make all the living beings in the world give up on cultivation. In the past few years, he had hardly cultivated because he had such thoughts. Hanju chuckled and said, my goal is not to make all the people in the world give up on cultivation. Shuren, do you live for yourself or for others? Chu Shuren was stunned. Of course I live for myself. I just want my life to be meaningful. In your opinion, shouldn't humans also give up raising livestock? Pets are also living beings. That's right, all living beings are equal. What do people eat? Food. You think wheat isn't a living being? You believe in the cycle of life and death. Do you know why there are different types of reincarnation? It's precisely because there are different levels. If bad people commit sins, they won't be able to give birth to a good child in their next life. If good people suffer in this life, they can be rich in their next life. This is the true balance. You've walked on the wrong path. Chu Shuren frowned and hesitated to speak. He wanted to retort, but he didn't feel confident in his defense. Hanju looked at him and said, if you want someone to give up something, you have to reach for it and see what it is. If it's really barren, you will have a firm Tao heart to convince others. If you haven't smelled the fragrance of flowers, how can you say that they are useless? Chu Shuren was convinced. Grandmaster, you're right. Chu Shuren sighed. Chu Shuren's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability. 4 stars. The source of this content is Light Novel World. If anyone else said that, he would definitely look down on them. But it was different when it came from Hanju. After all, Hanju had given up the chance to ascend. He would rather offend the heavenly court to protect the lives of the world. This righteousness was what Chu Shuren yearned for. He also wanted to be like Hanju, someone who could truly contribute to the world. A line of words appeared in front of Hanju. Detected bearer of Khanate Providence, check its origin. Hanju raised his eyebrows and immediately chose to check. Zhou Mingyue. Second level of the Golden Core Realm. The reincarnation of the upper world demon race's great sage equaling heaven. His master is one of the 5 great Buddhas, Buddha Bodhi. Because he defied the heavenly court's rule, he was hunted down by them. Later, he attacked the heavenly court and was suppressed by the heavenly emperor with a supreme mystical power. His body was destroyed by the heavenly punishment, and his soul entered the cycle of reincarnation. After hearing that the Jade Pure Sacred Sect had an immortal god, Zhou Mingyue especially came to acknowledge you as his master. Great sage equaling heaven? Buddha Bodhi, even now, you still say you aren't Sun Wukong? Why did this fellow who had caused trouble in the heavenly court come to his mortal world? Hanju instinctively resisted. After obtaining the heavenly Dao token, he only knew so much about the mortal world. How could so many people reincarnate in front of him? No, I have to ask Mengpa. After all, Mengpa was in charge of the Bridge of Forgetfulness. She was definitely the one responsible for reincarnation. Hanju replied to Chu Shuren, and then returned to the Khanate cave abode. His essence soul immediately left his body and jumped into the netherworld. As his cultivation increased greatly, Hanju quickly caught Mengpo's aura and arrived in front of the Bridge of Forgetfulness. The souls in front of the Bridge of Forgetfulness formed a long line, and the end was covered by the netherworld ghost fog. Why are there so many souls? Hanju frowned. It didn't have so many souls last time. Follow current novels on Light Novel World. Heavenly Court's prodigy. You're willing to come and see this old lady at last? Mengpo's voice entered his ears, her tone filled with teasing. During this period of time, another mortal world has been cleaned up by the heavenly court. All the living beings in the world have to be reincarnated. I'm going to be very busy. Read at Wuxia World. EU. Another mortal world was cleaned up? Another mortal world was cleaned up? Hanju frowned. Other than the Scarlet Cloud world, were there other worlds like this? He asked with a voice transmission. How many worlds have been wiped out over the years? Mengpa replied. This is already the 10th world. Hanju remained silent. Living beings of 10 worlds. The heavenly emperor was truly ruthless. Hanju woke up. He almost had a good impression of the heavenly emperor, because of his kindness. From the looks of it, the heavenly emperor was treating only him well. There was no prodigy like Hanju in those 10 worlds. Thus, all of them were reduced to ashes. It was truly terrifying. I'm very curious. Why must we clean up the world? Hanju asked with a voice transmission. Mengpa didn't hesitate and quickly replied. If the mortal world needs to rely on the demonic path to increase its overall providence, such a world will sooner or later become a world of devils. Although the devil race has long since left the stage of being the protagonists, they have never given up. There was a great calamity a million years ago. However, the heavenly court couldn't completely destroy the devils, and could only restrict their development. You came to me for this? Hanju came back to his senses and said with a voice transmission. Of course not. I'm just curious. Why are there so many mighty figure reincarnations in the Scarlet Cloud world? Mengpa smiled and said, You're thinking too much. There are as many mighty figures in the upper world as there are hairs on a cow. Every day, countless mighty figures die and return from the reincarnation cycle. The providence that the Scarlet Cloud world absorbs is actually already considered low. So far, the Scarlet Cloud world only has a few reincarnations of immortal emperors. There's only one mighty figure who has surpassed the immortal emperor realm. 300 years ago, the other mortal worlds even encountered the reincarnation of a Zenith Heaven Realm cultivator. The providence of the entire world soared. All living beings enjoyed the fortune brought by the Zenith Heaven mighty figure. The mighty figure who had surpassed the immortal Emperor realm was probably Chu Shuren. Hanju realized his mistake. He looked at the immortal world from the perspective of a mortal world, but he didn't realize it was bigger than all the mortal worlds combined. Were there really as many golden immortals as dogs and true immortals roaming everywhere? Hanju couldn't help but retort internally. If Tu Linger reaches the Mahayana realm, don't let her join the heavenly court. Mengpa sent him a voice transmission. Hanju asked, don't join the heavenly court as in don't ascend? Yes, with her potential, she will definitely be chosen by the heavenly court. Only if her potential is poor will she be chosen by the cultivation sections. Sure. Hanju agreed readily. Although the netherworld was controlled by the heavenly court, Mengpa clearly had selfish motives. It was fine as long as Hanju didn't become enemies with the heavenly emperor. Hanju only wanted to cultivate properly. He continued to look at the ghosts in front of the Bridge of Forgetfulness and stopped disturbing Mengpa. This scene was truly spectacular. This content is taken from Light Novel World. His gaze suddenly landed on a ghost. With his cultivation level as a heaven immortal, he could see through the person's past life. This person looked familiar. Senior, please let this ghost be reborn with a good life. Hanju sent a voice transmission to Mengpa and sent her the aura of the ghost. Mengpa immediately agreed. Hanju looked at it for a while, and then shook his head with a smile. The ghost was named Yang Luo 6 lifetimes ago. He was once an outer sect deacon of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect, and was also the inner sect disciple who had brought Hanju in. After 1,000 years, Yang Luo was no longer Yang Luo. Hanju had forgotten to get him a foundation establishment pill back then. Today he would return the favor. Hopefully, he would surpass foundation establishment, refine the golden core, and become a nascent soul expert in his next life. After returning to the Khanate cave abode, Hanju detected Zhou Mingyue's location. This kid was kneeling at the foot of the mountain. After the immortal god Calamity passed, more people knelt at the foot of the mountain than before. Zhou Mingyue was wearing the robe of an inner sect disciple. His face was feminine, and he had rosy lips and white teeth. He was good-looking, and resembled a girl dressed in men's clothing. But he was indeed a man. Should Hanju take him in? He hesitated. After careful thought, it was impossible for the great sage equaling heaven to reincarnate into the Scarlet Cloud world by chance. How could an existence who had offended the heavenly emperor be reincarnated so casually? Could it be arranged by the heavenly emperor? Forget it. I'll take him in. The more experts I nurture, the better. If the heavenly emperor asks, I'll pretend not to know. No one knew that he had a system. Hanju decided to let Chu Shuren accept Zhou Mingyue as his disciple. The Supreme Buddha had snatched his disciple. When Buddha Bodhi investigated, he would also find trouble with the Supreme Buddha. After thinking about it, Hanju closed his eyes and cultivated. Visit Light Novel World. For the best novel reading experience, he would first test Zhou Mingyue for a few decades. If he lacked determination, Hanju wouldn't accept him even if he was the reincarnation of the heavenly emperor. 20 years later, Hanju finally broke through to the perfected reincarnation Heaven Immortal Realm. He couldn't help but sigh. Breaking through in the Heaven Immortal Realm was really slow. How long would he take when he reached the true Immortal, Golden Immortal, and Immortal Emperor realms? He didn't think too much, and continued to consolidate his cultivation. About 4 years later, Hanju began to break through. Dao Comprehension Sword was expelled from his cave abode. Master broke through again. The Black Hell Chicken asked with wide eyes. If no one visited, Hanju wouldn't have chased Dao Comprehension Sword out. Dao Comprehension Sword snorted. I've recently cultivated a sword Dao. Let's spar. Come on. Am I afraid of you? The Black Hell Chicken accepted the challenge. I can't defeat Feng Liang and Morong Qi, but against a grass like you? Then, the Black Hell Chicken was defeated. The two golden crows couldn't help but laugh at it. The three-headed Wirem king felt a sense of danger. Even this grass spirit is so talented. If this continued, he would be surpassed sooner or later. Chu Shuren stared at Dao Comprehension Sword in deep thought. For some reason, Dao Comprehension Sword Dao left him in a daze. Half a year later, Han Ju successfully broke through to the early stage of the reincarnation true immortal realm. His dermic powers soared and his soul transformed. Han Ju almost couldn't help but roar. Awesome! He immediately checked his attributes panel. Name: Han Ju. Follow current novels on Light Novel World. Lifespan: 1191/37,800,531. Race: Immortal. Cultivation: early stage of the reincarnation true immortal realm. He had more than 30 million years of lifespan, close to 40 million years. What did they mean by a sense of security? This was a sense of security. Han Ju smiled proudly. He had only gone through 0.003% of his life. Life was truly long. Detected that you have reached the reincarnation true immortal realm. You have the following choices. 1. Immediately ascend and become famous. You can obtain a supreme treasure and a mystical power inheritance. 2. Don't ascend for the time being. Stay away from conflict. You can obtain a supreme treasure. Seeing this, Han Ju chose the second option without another word. Become famous in the immortal world, just as a true immortal? Courting death. Even immortal emperors died. No, in fact, even Zenith Heaven cultivators reincarnated. Han Ju didn't dare to go to the immortal world now. You chose not to ascend for the time being, and obtained a supreme treasure. Congratulations on obtaining a Supreme Grade Grand Unity Supreme Treasure. Heavy Bright Purple Chi Boots. Heavy Bright Purple Chi Boots. Supreme Grade Grand Unity Supreme Treasure. Increases movement speed, and can easily travel through the myriad worlds. Not bad. Han Ju wasn't too surprised. He didn't want to cross the worlds for the time being. He continued to consolidate his cultivation. Half a year later, he took out the Book of Misfortune and started the daily missions. After cursing all his enemies, he stood up and walked out of the cave abode in satisfaction. Seeing that Zhou Mingyue was still kneeling at the foot of the mountain, Han Ju asked Chu Shuren to fetch him. When the others heard that, they knew Han Ju wanted to take in another disciple. After interacting with him for so long, they all realized that those who could join Han Ju were all talented. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel World. Could it be? Dao Comprehension Sword was excited and prayed that it was a female disciple. Read at Wuxia World. EU. Dao Comprehension Sword was disappointed when Chu Shuren brought Zhou Mingyue up the mountain. Dao Comprehension Sword was disappointed when Chu Shuren brought Zhou Mingyue up the mountain. Although he looked like a woman, his aura was that of a man. Zhou Mingyue was very excited. He had finally obtained the recognition of an immortal god. He had been kneeling for more than 20 years. How many decades could a person live? The Black Hell Chicken, Tu Linger, the three-headed WRM King, and the others surrounded Zhou Mingyue and carefully sized him up. To be taken in by Han Ju, he was definitely not immortal. Han Ju stood under the tree and didn't pay attention to him. Chu Shuren brought Zhou Mingyue to kneel down before him. From today onwards he will be your disciple. You will teach him, Han Ju said expressionlessly. Upon hearing this, Chu Shuren was stunned. Zhou Mingyue was also stunned. He hurriedly said, I want to take you as my master. I don't want this mortal as my master. Chu Shuren frowned. The Black Hell Chicken smiled. This mortal is already a void amalgamation realm cultivator. Are you sure you don't want to accept him? Zhou Mingyue widened his eyes and looked at Chu Shuren in disbelief. The void amalgamation realm was extremely far away for golden core realm cultivators. He didn't expect that the white-haired old man, who looked like an ascetic, was such an expert. Wait, if Chu Shuren was so strong then... Zhou Mingyue looked at Han Ju with a burning gaze. Han Ju said, if you don't want to, then leave the mountain. Zhou Mingyue was shocked and quickly agreed. At this point, the first fourth-generation disciple of the Cultivate Diligently Become Immortal Mountain appeared. Visit to Light Novel World. Discover new novels. Han Ju ignored him and began to observe the Fusang tree. Chu Shuren pulled Zhou Mingyue away and began the master-disciple ceremony. Chu Shuren was still looking forward to Zhou Mingyue. After all, he was his first disciple. After watering the Fusang tree with immortal water, Hanju returned to the Khanate cave abode to continue cultivating. He first improved his Sword Dao mystical power. It had been a long time since he had come to the Sword Dao River. Hanju missed Zhang Guxing a little. This time, he didn't reveal his cultivation level. Instead, he disguised it as a heaven immortal. Zhang Guxing was suspected to be related to the Divine Palace, and it wasn't on good terms with the Heavenly Court. Now, Hanju couldn't casually show his cultivation to him. What if he was stabbed in the back? Seeing Zhang Guxing again, Hanju smiled and greeted him. Zhang Guxing asked, "You joined the Heavenly Court? So direct?" Hanju said, "Not really. I haven't entered the Heavenly Court yet. I'm still in the mortal world." "What do you mean? You don't plan to ascend?" "Since the Heavenly Emperor didn't clean up the mortal world, that means that he has already acknowledged you." "Why did you give up this opportunity?" "I just feel that the Heavenly Court's situation is troublesome, and the upper world is dangerous. I want to stay in the mortal world to cultivate and stay away from trouble. If you keep evading it, it's impossible for you to become an immortal emperor. You might be able to become a golden immortal through cultivation alone, but if you want to become an immortal emperor, you have to experience the mortal world and fight for providence. Only then can you become an immortal emperor. By then, as long as a trace of your soul remains, even the cycle of reincarnation can't erase you." Zhang Guxing was very serious. Hanju smiled and said, "Then, I'll wait until I reach the golden immortal realm." His potential was top-notch, and he cultivated an immortal emperor cultivation technique. There was really no need for him to cause trouble everywhere. If he became the stepping stone of some protagonist, wouldn't all his efforts be in vain? Just the Scarlet Cloud world had so many heaven-defying figures, let alone the thousands of other mortal worlds. The upper world was even more terrifying than imagined. Even the powerful Heavenly Emperor didn't dare to act recklessly in the Heavenly Court. Hanju felt that he himself was smart, but he was not completely unscrupulous in his calculations and schemes. Instead of going to the Heavenly Court and competing with the rest, it was better to cultivate in the mortal world in peace and not threaten anyone. Updated from Light Novel World. Calm Zhang Guxing shook his head and laughed. He suddenly thought of something and said, "Although the matter of the demon saint wreaking havoc in the Heavenly Court has ended, there might be a change soon. The demon saint is the great sage of the demon race, having led 1,000,000 demon soldiers to fight a bloody battle. In the end, the ones who benefited were the Buddhists. This made the demon race and the demon court very dissatisfied. There might be a huge change in the upper world." "Was this not over?" Hanju teased. Could it be that the Buddhist sect is planning to let the people of the demon court and heavenly court participate in the journey to the west and set up many obstacles along the way, using the travelers to slay demons and devils and promote the greatness of the Buddhist sect? Zhang Guxing asked in surprise. "Are you really immortal without a prominent previous life?" Hanju was stunned. Did he guess correctly? Journey to the West was not fabricated. A long time ago, the Buddhist sect indeed had such a grand plan, and they succeeded. That's why they are so powerful today. The Tao sect also retired because of this. However, later on, the 5 great Buddhas had a disagreement, and even fought, causing the Buddhist sect to weaken drastically. This also gave the Divine Palace a chance to rise. The Divine Palace is the fastest rising power in the upper world. It's also the force with the most immortal emperors. Hanju was shocked. The force with the greatest number of immortal emperors? Crap. Am I on the wrong side? It seemed that the Divine Palace had a better future. However, Morongqi had a grudge against the Divine Palace. Even if he went there, he might not be treated so well. I can't think like that. I need to cherish what I have. Hanju adjusted his state of mind. The two of them chatted for a while more before he bid farewell and left. In the following year, Hanju came to the Sword Dao River several times, as if he was visiting home. Updated from Light Novel World. 7 years later, Taoist 9 cauldrons came to visit him. Several decades had passed since the immortal god calamity. Although the world was no longer in a heated discussion, everyone still remembered this matter, especially in the cultivation world. The Jade Pure Sacred Sect had been deified because of Hanju. In the past few years, the Jade Pure Sacred Sect had rapidly expanded. Taoist Nine Cauldrons, Lu Bumi, Huang Zuantian, and the other upper echelons of the sect were busy. What is it? Hanju asked with a smile. Taoist Nine Cauldrons was already a body integration realm cultivator, but he was clearly very nervous when facing Hanju. This was a terrifying mighty figure that even an immortal god couldn't defeat. To put it bluntly, Hanju was the Jade Pure Sacred Sect's ancestor. If the sect cultivators were asked to choose between the two of them, no one would choose him. Hanju was already the faith of the cultivators in the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. Do you remember Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou? Taoist Nine Cauldrons asked. Hanju nodded. Taoist Nine Cauldrons continued. These two met again and even fought with many holy lands. They offended more and more people. Some people even invited our sect to besiege them. Do you think Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou were some of Hanju's few good friends? Taoist Nine Cauldrons knew about them, so he specially came to ask him. Hanju replied, "Do as you deem fit. After so many years, they're no longer disciples of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. Don't always think that they are related to me. If they act recklessly and are really evil, we should eliminate them." After 1,000 years, many things had changed. People changed every few years, let alone 1,000 years. Although their favorability towards Hanju didn't decrease, he didn't owe them anything. Everyone had their own life. Hanju didn't want to care too much unless he had a karmic debt to them. I understand, Taoist Nine Cauldrons replied, and told him about the situation of the sect. Hanju didn't want to be in charge, and didn't give any opinion. After he left, Hanju took out the Heavenly Dao token, wanting to see what Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou were up to recently. Soon his expression changed. For more, visit Light Novel World. Com these two. Read at Wuxia World. EU. The setting sun was blood red. The setting sun was blood red. The wasteland was covered in cracks and canyons. On a steep cliff sat two figures. It was Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou. The two of them meditated side by side, as if they were cultivating some cultivation technique. A ball of black chi floated above their heads. Hanju sensed the aura of a true immortal. Grand Unity True Immortal. How could there be a second Grand Unity True Immortal in the Scarlet Cloud world? Hanju immediately felt that he had been robbed. Without another word, he moved behind Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou. With a wave of his sleeve, he swept away the black aura. Immediately after, Hanju came to the other side of the world with no one around. He raised his right hand, and the black aura from before appeared in his palm. Fellow Taoist, I didn't cause harm to your mortal world. A cold voice came from the black aura. He didn't panic at all when Hanju grabbed him. The Undying Emperor has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points. 3 stars Undying Emperor? It sounded very scary. Hanju immediately checked his information through his interpersonal relationships. Undying Emperor. Mid-stage Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. Immortal Emperor of the Upper World. He was attacked by the Immortal Emperors of the Divine Palace and died. After 1,000,000 years, he finally recultivated to the Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. The Undying Emperor used his mystical power to split thousands of soul thoughts and search for his successor in the myriad worlds. He wanted to create a huge faction like the Divine Palace. Because you interfered with his plan, he developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points. 3 stars Immortal Emperor. Hanju was shocked. Upon a closer look, it was just a soul thought. What was he afraid of? His soul thought alone had the cultivation of a true immortal. The Undying Emperor was quite something. Hanju snorted. Invading the Heavenly Court's mortal world is against the heavenly rules. I'll tell Senior Ditai by now. The Undying Emperor hurriedly shouted. Fellow Taoist, we can discuss. This content is taken from Light Novel World. Come how? The 2 people you chose are my children. Don't you think you're going overboard? The Undying Emperor cursed. No wonder those 2 brats were so tough. They had an immortal backing them up. The Undying Emperor fell silent. Hanju was also hesitating if he should fall out with him. The Undying Emperor said, Fellow Taoist, this is my fault. I won't come again. Let go of my soul thought. Hanju thought for a moment. Even if he crushed this soul thought, he couldn't kill the other party. Why deepen his hatred? Then leave. Hanju let go of the black aura and secretly sneaked in the 6 paths insignia. The black aura quickly fled the scarlet cloud world. After confirming that his aura had disappeared, Hanju returned to the Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain. Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou didn't notice any of this. Many years later, they finally realized that the mighty figure who had wanted to take them in as disciples had truly vanished. After returning to the Khanate cave abode, Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and started to do his daily missions. Several months later, he finally cursed the Undying Emperor. In that case, the Undying Emperor should not suspect him. After all, the Undying Emperor had thousands of soul thoughts and countless enemies. After cursing, Hanju took out the Heavenly Tao token and told Di Taibai about the Undying Emperor, in case he didn't give up. Undying Emperor? This fellow is actually still alive. Di Taibai's voice sounded from the token. Hanju asked, "Will he come again?" "I will report this to His Majesty. After all, the Undying Emperor was an immortal emperor. Don't worry, he won't appear again." Hanju only felt relieved after receiving Di Taibai's guarantee. Dao Comprehension Sword asked curiously, "Who is the Undying Emperor?" Hanju didn't hide anything and told her about the realms above the Mahayana realm. Dao Comprehension Sword turned pale. The source of this content is Light Novel World. There's always someone stronger. We're still very weak and can't be careless. I, your master, have many enemies. I need you to work hard to become stronger. You can save my life at the critical moment, Hanju said seriously. Dao Comprehension Sword nodded solemnly, her mind filled with danger. She continued to cultivate the heavenly sword Dao. Hanju nodded in satisfaction. He began to cultivate the 6 paths of reincarnation technique. After breaking through to the reincarnation true immortal realm, his cultivation technique became increasingly unfathomable. Hanju couldn't master it in a short period of time. However, he had a long lifespan and was in no hurry. 17 years later, Hanju finally mastered the true immortal chapter of the 6 paths of reincarnation technique. His cultivation speed increased greatly, and he also comprehended a new mystical power, Divine Eye of Reincarnation. It could see through the past and present lives of living beings. After killing enemies, it could absorb the providence accumulated by the enemy's past and present lives. It was extremely domineering. This mystical power was very useful, but Hanju didn't want to absorb providence everywhere for the time being. Hanju continued to cultivate to increase his cultivation level. He wanted to reach the middle stage of the true immortal realm as soon as possible. After reaching the true immortal realm, the speed of his breakthroughs clearly slowed down. His chi absorption speed was far faster than before. However, the immortal chi needed to break through in this realm was too huge. Hanju checked the emails while cultivating. Your good friend Ji Xianxian has comprehended the heavenly Tao truth beside the heavenly river. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Divine General has left the immortal world. Your grand disciple Morong Qi accidentally entered the ancient mystic realm and mastered an eternal mystical power. Your good friend Huang Jihao was attacked by demon beasts X249983. Your good friend Mo Fuzhou was bewitched by the devil ancestor and developed mental demons. Your grand disciple Feng Liang received guidance from an immortal god in his dream. Your good friend Long Shan has comprehended a grand unity mystical power, and his cultivation has increased greatly. Nothing much happened. Visit Light Novel World. For the best novel reading experience, however, Hanju noticed that Feng Liang was being guided by an immortal. What's going on? Someone from the heavenly court wanted to rob him of his disciple as well? Hanju frowned. He had to ask him about this when Feng Liang returned. Hanju read for a while, and then went back to cultivating. Half a year later, Fairy Shixian returned, and took the initiative to look for him. Hanju told Dao Comprehension Sword to leave the cave abode, and spend some time alone with Fairy Shixian. I obtained a letter in a mystic realm. I can use it to join a cultivation sect in the upper world. Do you want to go? Fairy Shixian asked after sitting down. Hanju's relationship with the heavenly court was not publicized. Everyone only knew that the heavenly court no longer targeted the mortal world. Hanju took the letter and read it. It was a sect called Heavenly Dipper Island. It had been established for hundreds of thousands of years and had a deep foundation. The Heavenly Dipper Island's master had ascended from the Scarlet Cloud world and had always missed his hometown. Hanju said, "Do you want to go?" "I don't want to ascend for the time being." Fairy Shixian shook her head and said, "With my cultivation level, I'll be courting death if I ascend." "Then keep it. If you want to ascend in the future, you can go there." Hanju smiled and returned the letter to her. As the spirit chi of the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain became denser, Fairy Shixian also successfully broke through to the void amalgamation realm. The problem of her lifespan was no longer a concern. As for Chang Yuer, who was in seclusion all year round, she was already close to the void amalgamation realm. Fairy Shixian asked curiously, "You plan to stay in the mortal world?" Hanju nodded. Fairy Shixian wanted to say something but hesitated. She wanted to persuade Hanju, but on second thought, his potential was not something she could imagine. Why should she worry? The two of them chatted for a while before Fairy Shixian left. Hanju was about to call Dao Comprehension Sword back in when a voice entered his ears. "Hanju, I've already broken through to the Grand Unity True Immortal Realm. Do you dare to fight me in the void?" This voice sounded familiar. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel World. Isn't that the son of the Heavenly Emperor, Long Shan? Hanju frowned. "Why is this kid here?" Long Shan's voice sounded again. "Don't worry, it's just a spar. No matter if you win or lose, I won't make things difficult for you." Read at Wuxia World. EU. Hanju sighed. After sending Ji Xianxian away, Long Shan came instead. Was this fate? Hanju thought for a moment, but still stood up. After cultivating for decades, it was not bad to go out and fight occasionally. Long Shan had a good impression of him, and should not be tricking him. He probably really wanted to fight. Hanju had relied on Long Shan to rise up. This time he naturally couldn't hold back. If he lost to Long Shan, it meant that his talent was inferior to Long Shan's. What would the Heavenly Emperor think of him? Hanju still hoped to cultivate in peace, under the Heavenly Emperor's protection. The void was illusory and without light. Hanju appeared in front of Long Shan. The two of them emitted a faint light. It was an immortal power that could allow them to survive in the void. Long Shan was still wearing silver armor. He was in high spirits, and the corners of his mouth were curled up. He was very confident. Wait, no. Conceited. This was what he felt when Hanju saw him. Long Shan asked with a burning gaze. "Hanju, how's your cultivation level?" Under the concealment of the system, Hanju's cultivation level remained at the mid-stage of the reincarnation heaven immortal realm. Hanju said, "I've also reached the true immortal realm." Hearing this, Long Shan's smile froze. His eyes widened in shock. Impossible. He had suffered so much to break through to the true immortal realm. Meanwhile, Hanju was hiding in the mortal world. Really? Long Shan gritted his teeth. Visit Light Novel World. Calm for a better experience. Hanju spread out his hands and said, "I never lie." Long Shan was silent. Hanju wasn't in a hurry to attack. After a long while, Long Shan took a deep breath and said, "I'll challenge you when I become a golden immortal. I'll definitely enter the golden immortal realm before you." With that, Long Shan vanished. Hanju was amused. He was quite sensible. That was good too. He didn't need to suffer a greater blow. He had already copied Long Shan's cultivation level using the simulation trial. He could torture him when he returned. Green mountains and pure rivers, blue skies and white clouds. Under a waterfall, Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou stood by the river and looked at the water surface. They were no longer the rash youths from back then. They had become very mature. Mo Fuzhou had a sense of vicissitudes while Zhou Fan had become sinister. There was a killing intent between his brows that could not be concealed. "Do you really want to do that?" Zhou Fan frowned. Mo Fuzhou said calmly, "Ji Xianxian has already ascended. Brother Han has already become an immortal god. No one in the mortal world is a match for the two of us." Why do you have to make yourself the number one in the world and fight for providence before ascending? Zhou Fan hesitated. He had died several times, so he had to be cautious. In the past, it had always been Mo Fuzhou who followed him and protected him. He had always felt that he owed him, so in this life, Mo Fuzhou was the priority. However, he didn't expect that after their reunion, Mo Fuzhou would become extremely crazy and ambitious. Mo Fuzhou glanced at him and said softly, "If you're afraid, then find a place to hide and cultivate. Perhaps you can be like Brother Han." This sentence agitated Zhou Fan. He had always treated Han Ju as his target. He thought that going out on adventures was the true path of cultivation. He didn't expect to be left behind. It was impossible for him to imitate Han Ju. Impossible. If you want to challenge them, I'll accompany you. Zhou Fan snorted. Even if he couldn't compare to Han Ju, what about the rest? Mo Fuzhou revealed a smile and said, "Very good. Let's start from the heavenly immortal manor. Didn't they want to hunt us down? We'll directly destroy them." All right. Zhou Fan also looked forward to it. At this moment, a figure walked out of the forest. It was Xian Qingjuan's junior Xian Shishir. She protected Zhou Fan all year round. Xian Shishir looked at their backs and frowned. Damn it, what are these two brats doing? Xian Shishir was really tired. After following Zhou Fan for so many years, she was really tired. She suddenly wanted to ascend like her senior. She would die if she continued to follow him. The enemies Zhou Fan had provoked were already stronger than her. She might even become his burden. Should I leave? Xian Shishir hesitated. Xian Qingjun had asked her to follow Zhou Fan for the sake of the devils. Now that the devils couldn't make a comeback, there was no point in doing this anymore. Thinking of this, Xian Shishir silently retreated into the forest. Zhou Fan seemed to sense something. He turned around, and his eyes flashed with disappointment. He understood something. However, he had his own path. He would no longer risk his life for women, and let go of everything. In the blink of an eye, 30 years passed. Han Ju was already close to the mid-stage of the reincarnation true immortal realm. However, he had already spent more than 50 years. This stage had taken longer than any other stages he had broken through before. On this day, Su Qi came to visit him. He had already broken through to the tribulation transcendence realm. His cultivation progressed very quickly. After all, he had been cultivating diligently. "Master, I want to ascend. Recently, I feel like something in the upper world is summoning me." Su Qi knelt in front of him and said seriously, "Visit to light novel world. Come discover new novels." Han Ju showed a frown, but in his mind, he heaved a sigh of relief. As Su Qi became stronger, his bad luck also increased. Yang Tiandong had returned previously and even visited Su Qi. However, he had encountered a mental demon and had to go out to relax. Han Ju pretended to be troubled. "The upper world is very dangerous. I might not be able to protect you." Su Qi smiled. "Don't worry, master. I won't cause trouble." Han Ju said, "In that case, why don't you join the Dragon Immortal Island after you ascend? Taoist Dan Qing is a mighty figure and has countless disciples under him. This was told to me by an immortal god. Of course, if you acknowledge Taoist Dan Qing as your master, don't say that you're from the Scarlet Cloud world, much less that you're my disciple." Su Qi silently noted it down and said, "Thank you for your guidance, master. It's just nice. I have to cultivate for a period of time after I ascend." Han Ju said, "Go. If you really encounter unresolvable trouble, you can seek help from the heavenly court." Su Qi was secretly touched. "Master is still worried about me." He kowtowed 3 times before leaving. After bidding farewell to his fellow disciples, Su Qi left the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain that day. Han Ju felt a strange feeling like his disciple had just graduated. However, Su Qi was the jinx of the heavenly court. He was tough and wouldn't die so easily. Han Ju sighed, took out the Book of Misfortune, and started cursing Taoist Dan Qing. While cursing, he checked his emails. "Your good friend Di Hongya has entered the dark forbidden zone. Your good friend Divine General has killed your enemy Undying Emperor. Your grand disciple Morong Qi has comprehended a grand unity mystical power. His providence has increased greatly. Your Tao companion Xian Qingjun obtained an immortal fruit by chance, and her cultivation level increased greatly. Because of your curse, your enemy Vermilion Bird's cultivation has greatly decreased. His cultivation level has fallen to the loose immortal realm. Your Tao companion Xing Hongxian has obtained the inheritance of an ancient mighty figure. Her soul has transformed. Your good friend Huang Jihao was attacked by demon beasts, X120083. Hanju noticed that Undying Emperor was killed by Divine General. Was the Heavenly Court so efficient? The latest episodes are on the light novel world.com website. He immediately checked Undying Emperor's portrait. It was still there, still alive. The information indicated that he was only left with a remnant soul. It was really tragic. Hanju was very satisfied. He could sense that the Heavenly Emperor was indeed protecting him. Read at Wuxia World. EU. Hanju noticed that Xing Hongxian had obtained the inheritance of an ancient mighty figure, and her soul had also transformed. Hanju noticed that Xing Hongxian had obtained the inheritance of an ancient mighty figure, and her soul had also transformed. He turned his attention to her. Xing Hongxian was still in the Taoist temple she had bumped into by chance. Previously, Chang Yuer had accompanied her. Now she was alone. Chang Yuer wasn't as daring as she was. It was fine if she went out occasionally. Hanju had discovered a remnant soul in the statue. It had already awakened. It was an old woman in a Taoist robe. She looked different from those he had seen before. She floated above Xing Hongshuan's head and chanted the scriptures. Hanju listened quietly and felt that something was amiss. Why is it a Buddhist scripture? A Buddhist lecture in a Taoist temple? What's going on? Hanju checked Xing Hongshuan's profile picture in his interpersonal relationships. After confirming that she wasn't possessed and that her favorability didn't decrease, he was relieved. He used his divine sense to probe the remnant soul. Grand Unity Heaven Immortal Cultivation. However, it was only the realm. Her strength might not even be comparable to a loose immortal, and the soul was already a flickering candle in the wind. Hanju continued to observe. After a long time, Xing Hongxian opened her eyes and said, "Master, can this Guanyin scripture really allow me to become an immortal?" The old woman said, "Of course. Buddhism emphasizes that all living beings are equal. Anyone with any talent can become Buddha or Bodhisattva. As long as you have a firm Buddhist heart, this is your only way. Your potential is indeed mediocre. The cultivation techniques of the mortal world can't help you. I don't have much time left. I'll even give you my remnant soul. Don't forget what you promised me." With that said, the old woman's remnant soul gradually dissipated like smoke. Xing Hongxian wasn't sad. Instead, she was very calm. Visit Light Novel World. Calm for the best novel reading experience. Hanju suddenly appeared in front of her. "Husband!" Xing Hongxian exclaimed in surprise and hurriedly stood up. In the current Scarlet Cloud world, Hanju could go wherever he wanted because he was the immortal god in charge of the heavenly Tao. "Who was that just now?" Hanju asked. Xing Hongxian replied, "A Buddhist cultivator from the upper world descended into the mortal world a long time ago. She died and her Tao dissipated, leaving behind only a remnant soul. She gave her cultivation technique to me, hoping that after I ascend, I can help her tell the Buddhist sect about her grudge and let them seek justice for her." Hanju asked curiously, "What grudge?" Xing Hongxian didn't hide anything and replied truthfully, "A long time ago, the heavenly tribulation affected the mortal world. She joined forces with the heavenly court's immortal gods to come to the mortal world to clean up the devil race. In the end, she was betrayed by the immortal gods. It concerned the heavenly court?" Hanju didn't think too much about it. When Xing Hongxian arrived at the Buddhist sect, who knew if it would be thousands of years or tens of thousands of years later? "How are you?" Hanju asked. He grabbed Xing Hongshuan's wrist and checked her body. Her spirit energy was stable, and there was no danger in her body. Xing Hongxian smiled and said, "It's fine. This Guanyin scripture is indeed powerful. Husband, do you want it? You can let your female disciples cultivate it in the future." Hanju hesitated and said, "That's not good. Didn't she tell you not to spread the technique?" "She did, but she's already gone. Besides, everything I have belongs to my husband. I'll follow the agreement and tell the Buddhist sect about her hatred. Alright, let me check if this cultivation technique is dangerous, Hanju replied. In all kinds of fantasy novels, Buddhism was the most hated. It was as if all Buddhas were hypocrites and liked to brainwash others. Xing Hongxian immediately taught him the Guanyin scripture. There were no records of this cultivation technique. It was passed down verbally. Hanju started to sort it out. The Guanyin scripture was indeed impressive. It could actually be cultivated to the grand unity true immortal realm. If mastered, one could cultivate the Guanyin Dharma body and have unparalleled divine powers. Hanju combed through it repeatedly, but didn't find any traps. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel World. Continue cultivating. Hanju opened his eyes and said before leaving. Xing Hongxian was already used to his straightforward personality. She meditated again and continued cultivating. Hanju smiled after returning to the Khanate cave abode. Xing Hongxian also had her own fortuitous encounter. She probably wouldn't die of old age. This was also good. It won't make Hanju worry. Currently the people around him were all very old. As long as they were willing to stay in the cultivate diligently become immortal mountain to cultivate, there would be no problem with their lifespan limit. Ever since the Fusang tree was watered with the immortal water, the spirit qi of the cultivate diligently become immortal mountain had increased greatly. He continued to cultivate. After another 11 years, he finally broke through to the mid-stage of the reincarnation true immortal realm. His dharmic powers increased again. Hanju was in a good mood. He liked the feeling of breaking through. He was even more glad now that he had spent more than 10 years re-rolling his providences and cultivation potential. He had persevered for more than 10 years in exchange for a lifetime of comfort. Hanju became more cautious and continued cultivating. His target was the late-stage true immortal realm. Another 3 years passed. Ditaibai personally visited. Hanju invited him into the cave abode. It had to be said that the high officials of the heavenly court were indeed impressive. They could casually descend into the mortal world. If it were other immortals, they would be violating the heavenly rules. After Dao comprehension sword was chased out, Ditaibai sat before the table and smiled. I heard that you're already a true immortal? Visit Light Novel World. For the best novel reading experience. Clearly, the Heavenly Emperor had already heard about Long Shan's retreat. Yes, I was lucky, Hanju said humbly. Ditaibai stroked his beard and smiled. As expected of a prodigy personally chosen by His Majesty, you don't have to worry about the undying emperor anymore. The divine general has already killed him. Although he isn't dead, it will be very difficult for him to cause trouble in the next 1,000,000 years. 1,000,000 years was enough for him to rise. Hanju said, Thank you, Heavenly Court. Thank you, Heavenly Emperor. Thank you, Divine General. The Heavenly Peach Banquet, which happens once every 10,000 years, is about to begin. There's still 100 years to go. Do you want to go? If you do, I'll give you an invitation. Hanju thought for a moment and then said, Forget it. I'm afraid of trouble. Ditaibai smiled. What trouble is there in the Heavenly Peach Banquet? Don't worry, your identity won't be made public. His Majesty won't mention you either. You're just going to enjoy the heavenly peaches and see how impressive the heavenly court is. Hanju hesitated for a moment and asked, Is it the Heavenly Emperor's intention? Yes, consuming one peach is better than 1,000 years of cultivation. Are you willing to give it up? Alright, I'll go. Since it was the Heavenly Emperor's intention, he wouldn't be giving him face by rejecting. Moreover, the Heavenly Emperor made the Divine General kill the Undying Emperor. It was a huge favor. The Heavenly Court had been helping him until now, but he hadn't done anything for them. Ditaibai smiled and said, There's a reincarnated immortal emperor in the Divine Palace who has awakened the Emperor Dao. When he was a Grand Unity True Immortal, he killed a Grand Unity Golden Immortal. Now he's already a Grand Unity Golden Immortal, and is very awe-inspiring. He has been conferred the title of the strongest prodigy of the younger generation by the Divine Palace. You have to cultivate well. In the future, you will definitely have to face him. You will represent the Heavenly Court. Hanju frowned after hearing that. So impressive? He was about to say something when Ditaibai vanished. A red token appeared on the table with the words, Heavenly Peach carved on it. The Heavenly Peach Banquet in 100 years? Hanju silently wondered if the Heavenly Peach was fragrant. Follow current novels on Light Novel World. Calm then, he took out the Heavenly Dao token and sent his divine sense into it to check the Heavenly Dao tablet. He was shocked when he saw it. The Scarlet Cloud World's ranking had actually improved by hundreds. Read at Wuxia World. EU. This is not good, Hanju muttered to himself. This is not good, Hanju muttered to himself. He didn't want the Scarlet Cloud World to be too strong and attract others' attention. It would be best if it remained in the middle and did not stand out. It was still alright at the moment. It had only increased by a few hundred, but there would be a problem if it continued to increase. Hanju felt that he had to pay more attention to the Heavenly Dao tablet in the future. He didn't even do anything. Why was the Scarlet Cloud World still becoming stronger? After becoming an immortal god, Hanju's providence was no longer regarded as part of the Scarlet Cloud World. Could it be the influence of the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain? Hanju couldn't figure it out, and couldn't be bothered to think about it. Jade Pure Sacred Sect, main peak, in the meeting hall. Taoist 9 Cauldrons sat on the throne with a worried expression. The elders in the hall were also filled with worry. Lu Bumi said, "This matter cannot be avoided. Morong Chi is the grand disciple of the deity-slaying elder. Although this relationship has not been spread, if something happens to him, the deity-slaying elder will definitely be furious." The other elders agreed. Taoist 9 Cauldrons had a headache and said helplessly, "It's not Morong Chi who's in trouble now. He's the one who wants to destroy the Holy Lands. Can any of you dissuade him? Do you want me to find the deity-slaying elder? He said that he won't interfere in the affairs of the mortal world, including the grudges of his disciples and grand disciples. He said that he doesn't care, but if Morong Chi dies, he will definitely be upset. I called you here because I hope that you can think of a foolproof plan." Silence. The hall fell silent again. It was too difficult to persuade Morong Chi. The current Morong Chi was already considered a top-notch expert of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. He was no longer just an eldest disciple. By the way, Morong Chi and Fong Liang have a good relationship. Fong Liang is kind and gentle. Why don't we let him persuade Morong Chi? Someone suggested. Fong Liang and Morong Chi were regarded as the duo geniuses of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. They were already experts who could dominate the world. Taoist 9 Cauldrons' eyes lit up. If Fong Liang isn't in the sect, who will look for him? Lu Bumi replied, "I'll go. I can also represent the Jade Pure Sacred Sect." Taoist 9 Cauldrons glanced at him and nodded slightly. This matter was settled. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel World. Calm. In the blink of an eye, another 7 years passed. On this day, an old friend came to visit Hanju. It was Huang Jihao of the True Martial Sect. He was an elder of the Great Yin Vermilion Bird Sword Sect, and had once challenged Hanju. He was almost insta-killed. This person had connate providence, and an innate sword heart. He had also been to the Sword Dao River. Hanju always had an impression of him, because this fellow was a battle maniac. He could fight on par with Ji Xianxin, and was always in the top 3 on the list of friends who got attacked. Hanju thought for a moment, and decided to see him. Entering the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain, Huang Jihao was immediately shocked. What dense spirit qi! He had never felt such spirit qi even after traveling the world. When he arrived at the peak and saw the 3-headed Worm King and the 2 golden crows, his blood ran cold. The auras of the 3 demons made him instinctively feel danger. Tu Linger glanced over momentarily, and then ignored him. She continued cultivating. The Black Hell Chicken looked at him curiously. It felt that he was familiar. Chu Shuren was still cultivating. Zhou Mingyue opened his eyes and sized him up. "Come in." Hanju's voice floated out of the cave abode. The door opened, and Dao Comprehension Sword walked out with a displeased expression. Huang Jihao looked at her, secretly shocked. This woman's cultivation level was also very high. Although it was inferior to his, She was definitely a mighty cultivator in the cultivation world. After hundreds of years, why were there so many experts under Hanju? Huang Jihao felt an inexplicable sense of regret. He adjusted his state of mind and entered the Khanate cave abode. Zhou Mingyue asked curiously, "Who is this person? I feel that he's not as powerful as you guys. Why can he enter Grandmaster's residence?" Without opening his eyes, Chu Shuren said, "Cultivate well. You aren't even qualified to be summoned by Grandmaster." The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel World. Zhou Mingyue felt awkward. His cultivation speed was already very fast, but it was not outstanding here under the Fusang tree. He often wondered what kind of freaks these people were. In the outside world, even a nascent soul realm cultivator could be considered a mighty figure. But here, there were 2 suns lying on the tree. Who would believe that? Zhou Mingyue sighed and continued cultivating. Inside the Khanate cave abode, when he saw Hanju again, Huang Jihao was stunned. He was still so beautiful. Even if it was a woman, no one could shock Huang Jihao with their looks. Hanju couldn't stand his gaze and asked, "What's the matter?" Huang Jihao came back to his senses and said, "Is Morongqi your grand disciple?" "Yes, why?" "This kid is too arrogant. He calls himself #1 in the world." "Not bad. If he's the #1 in the world, what about you? He doesn't care about you, his grandmaster, at all." "I don't belong to this world. I am beyond the heavens." Huang Jihao choked. Hanju frowned and asked, "You came to find me about this?" Was he so bored? Huang Jihao said, "Morongqi provoked someone under me, so I have to stand up for him. I need to fight him, but he's your grand disciple. I can spare his life." "Go ahead," Hanju replied with a strange smile. Huang Jihao hesitated. "How strong are you now?" He spoke in a very nervous tone. Hanju said, "You won't understand even if I tell you. Do you want to spar with me again?" Visit Light Novel World. For the best novel reading experience. Huang Jihao hurriedly shook his head. He must be joking. Hanju was already in existence who had fought against an immortal. How could he dare to fight him? Back then, when his master, Shangguan Qiujian, came to challenge Hanju, he directly suffered mental trauma. Even now, his cultivation realm hadn't increased much. "When will you ascend?" Huang Jihao asked carefully. Hanju smiled and said, "Ascension? Impossible. I'll stay in the mortal world forever." Huang Jihao's expression changed drastically. 5 minutes later, Huang Jihao walked out of the Khanate cave abode, looking as if he had lost his soul. The Black Hell Chicken teased, "I remember now. He seemed to have come to challenge Master before, and even brought his own master here." Zhou Mingyue asked curiously, "What happened?" In the end, he was defeated instantly. His master was almost frightened to death. Grandmaster is so powerful. A man and a chicken talked, as if they were making fun of him. Huang Jihao frowned when he heard this. Although Huang Jihao felt uncomfortable, he didn't snap at them. He quickly left. Hanju took out the Heavenly Dao token and started to observe Morongqi. What had he been doing all these years? Morongqi was cultivating on top of a lone peak. He meditated in the wind, his robes fluttering. He had the demeanor of an otherworldly expert. Hanju lost interest when he saw that he was cultivating. It had to be said that Morongqi's cultivation speed was indeed fast. He had just broken through to the Tribulation Transcendence realm not long ago. Hanju couldn't help but think of the reincarnation of the immortal emperor of the Divine Palace. Could it be that after a mighty figure reincarnated, their cultivation speed would surpass the past life? At this rate, Morongqi would reach the peak of the mortal world in a few hundred years. Perhaps even faster. Feng Liang wasn't slow either. He was already at the 8th level of body integration realm. Just as Hanju was thinking, 3 lines of words appeared in front of him. Visit Light Novel World. For the best novel reading experience. Your disciple Su Qi ascended and brought bad luck to the immortal world, causing the providence of the immortal world to change. You have the following choices. 1. Immediately ascend and stop Su Qi. You can obtain a supreme treasure. 2. Continue cultivating and don't interfere with the Heavenly Court's plot. You can obtain a random powerful bloodline. Read at Wuxia World. EU. Bad luck has spread to the immortal world? Bad luck has spread to the immortal world? Heavenly Court is plotting something? Hanju was stunned. Did Heavenly Court's plot refer to their arrangement for Hanju? Or was Su Qi's descent into the mortal world a trap in the first place? Hanju silently chose the second option. How could he stop Su Qi? Who dared to provoke him? That was asking for trouble. You choose to continue cultivating and not interfere with the Heavenly Court's plot. You have obtained a random powerful bloodline. Congratulations on obtaining the Stellar Primordial Body. Stellar Primordial Body. A powerful bloodline born from the primordial beginning. Powerful blood vitality. Can absorb the essence of the sun and moon. Can borrow the power of the stars in battle. This bloodline looked amazing. Hanju immediately accepted the bloodline. In an instant, a strange power surged from his body. An unprecedented pain distorted his face. You go out first, Hanju hurriedly said. Dao Comprehension Sword was awakened. Although puzzled, she still walked out of the cave abode obediently. Not long after, the entire Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain began to shake, gradually affecting the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. Those who didn't know would think that there was an earthquake. The three-headed WRM king sighed. Master broke through again? It was too exaggerated. The higher one's cultivation realm went, the harder it was to break through, right? Why did it feel like breaking through was as simple as drinking water to Hanju? Zhou Mingyue asked curiously. What realm is Grandmaster at now? Chu Shuren shook his head. He didn't know either. Don't ask. You can't even imagine it. The Black Hell Chicken said smugly. Zhou Mingyue frowned and said, Why are you so smug? It's not like you broke through. Master's breakthrough is my breakthrough. Bullshit, you're too weak. It won't be long before I defeat you. Young man, you're too arrogant. The Black Hell Chicken narrowed its eyes, but its heart was filled with danger. Zhou Mingyue wasn't bragging. This kid's talent was indeed ridiculous. He looked like a second Morong Qi. The Black Hell Chicken suddenly doubted its life. Was it really the reincarnation of a phoenix? In a dark cave abode, an old man with disheveled hair was meditating. His eyes suddenly opened, and a bright light shone in them. This aura. Someone has awakened a primordial physique. The old man muttered with a solemn tone, pinching his fingers to deduce. His then expression changed slightly. Heavenly Court, Hao Tian. It seems like you've hidden it well, the elder muttered to himself. He immediately stood up and walked out of the cave abode. He wasn't the only one. The various powers in the immortal world had deduced this. In a pavilion in the Heavenly Court, the Heavenly Emperor sat on the mat cultivating. The surrounding smoke curled up. He suddenly sensed something and opened his eyes. He frowned and pinched his fingers to deduce. Why did Heavenly Court's luck suddenly increase? The Heavenly Emperor couldn't deduce that Hanju had inherited the stellar primordial body. The increase in providence in the Heavenly Court made him very vigilant, afraid that someone was playing tricks. The Heavenly Emperor quickly deduced that the reason for the increase in providence was the Scarlet Cloud World. To be precise, it came from Hanju. But he couldn't see why Hanju could increase the Heavenly Court's providence. This kid. The Heavenly Emperor was slightly shocked. Even the Divine General hadn't caused such a commotion. Visit Light Novel World. For a better experience, he didn't go to the Scarlet Cloud World. Instead, he enveloped the entire Heavenly Court with his divine sense to prevent anyone from descending into the mortal world. There were many mighty figures hidden in the Heavenly Court who were not inferior to the Heavenly Emperor. He was afraid that others would discover and target Hanju. Only a few mighty figures noticed the increase in the Heavenly Court's providence. Most of the immortals and gods did not sense anything amiss, and were still doing their own things. A month passed. Hanju finally obtained the stellar primordial body. He felt that the entire world had changed. He could feel the power of the stars and the vitality of all things. This feeling, awesome, Hanju praised. His six paths dermic powers increased exponentially, and his soul and divine sense grew immensely. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he had been reborn. His previous talent was already strong enough, and he could still develop further. He was somewhat looking forward to his new cultivation speed. After his bloodline transformed, he was covered in sweat and had no choice but to cast a spell to cleanse his body. After cleaning himself, he began to cultivate. Soon he discovered that his cultivation speed had more than doubled. The most domineering thing about the stellar primordial body was that it could borrow the power of stars. If he fought in the endless sea of stars, he would be almost invincible unless the other party's cultivation realm far exceeded his. Hanju could use the third level of the heavenly sword Tao. Sword creates the primordial world in the future. By creating the stars of the primordial world, he could gather their power to fight. In that case, his combat strength would be unimaginable. I'm such a genius, Hanju thought proudly. As night fell, the sky was filled with stars. Hanju discovered that his cultivation speed had increased further. This caused him to have the urge to go to the universal sea of stars to cultivate. However, on second thought, if he did, he wouldn't have the support of the immortal chi of the cultivate diligently become immortal mountain. His cultivation speed would decrease instead. Hanju called Tao Comprehension Sword back in and started the simulation trial. Fighting Long Shan resulted in an instant kill. It was impossible to kill Ditaibai instantly. The opponents in the simulation trial had no thoughts or emotions. They fought based on their instincts. Hanju was killed before he could create the primordial world. Ditaibai was still very strong. He was at the perfected Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm, and was only a step away from becoming an immortal emperor. Tao Comprehension Sword sat on her mat and sized him up. Visit to Light Novel World. Discover new novels. For some reason, she felt that Hanju had become a different person, but she couldn't tell what had changed. 3 years later, a voice entered Hanju's ears. Come out and chat. The Heavenly Emperor. Hanju was stunned. Why was the Heavenly Emperor looking for him? He immediately moved, arriving in the forest several dozen li away. The Heavenly Emperor turned to look at him with a frown. Hanju was shocked. What was going on? Could it be that him allowing Su Qi to go to the immortal world had offended the Heavenly Emperor? Just as Hanju was feeling uneasy, the Heavenly Emperor's eyes lit up. What bloodline do you have? Why is your blood vitality so powerful? Hanju said, I don't know either. I do feel that my blood vitality has become much stronger recently. He couldn't say anything about the stellar primordial body. It was difficult to explain. The Heavenly Emperor sized him up carefully and said, Do you want to go to the Heavenly Peach Banquet? Hanju hesitated for a moment and said, Actually, I don't want to go. I'm afraid of trouble. But if your Majesty wants me to go, I naturally can't refuse. The Heavenly Emperor's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 4 stars. This notification popped up in front of Hanju. He couldn't help but sigh. The Heavenly Emperor also liked to listen to flattery. The Heavenly Emperor smiled. Since you don't want to go, then don't. When the time comes, I'll get Ditaibai to personally give you the Heavenly Peach. Hanju was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly thanked him. Then, the Heavenly Emperor began to chat with him about some interesting things about the Heavenly Court. Most of the time, Hanju listened and occasionally agreed. The Heavenly Emperor suddenly sighed. If only the Divine General knew how to repay kindness like you. Hanju asked curiously. Isn't the Divine General the Heavenly General with the greatest contributions in the Heavenly Court? The latest episodes are on the Light Novel World. Website. What did the Heavenly Emperor mean? Did he have a conflict with the Divine General? Or was this sarcasm? Read at Wuxia World. EU. His contributions are indeed great, but he's arrogant precisely because of that. Previously, I made him go and kill the undying emperor. It took a lot of effort to convince him. His contributions are indeed great, but he's arrogant precisely because of that. Previously, I made him go and kill the undying emperor. It took a lot of effort to convince him. The Heavenly Emperor shook his head with a bitter expression. Hanju didn't know if he should believe it. The Divine General also had a good impression of him. It was a 3-star favorability. Before today, it was the same as the Heavenly Emperor's favorability towards him. Hanju said, At least he was nurtured by you, Your Majesty. Don't worry. If I get stronger in the future, I won't forget your kindness. The Heavenly Emperor smiled. I believe you. Cultivate well. With me around, No one will disturb your cultivation." With that, the heavenly emperor vanished. Hanju quickly returned to the Khanate cave abode. He began to ponder the heavenly emperor's intentions. Could it be that the heavenly emperor and the divine general were about to clash? He had thought that the divine general was a trusted aide of the heavenly emperor, but it seemed that that was not the case. The only trusted subordinate of the heavenly emperor was Di Tai Bai. Hanju didn't know anyone else for the time being. If there really is a traitor, I can check through the system. Hanju thought silently and stopped thinking about it. He started to focus on cultivating. When he became stronger, he wouldn't be afraid no matter how chaotic the heavenly court was. Hanju had never thought of working for them. He could return the favor, but there was no need to risk his life. Survival was the most important thing. 5 years later, Hanju opened his eyes and took out the Book of Misfortune to curse. This was a rule he had set. Every 10 years, he had to curse his enemies once to prevent anyone from thinking of settling the scores with him. While cursing, he checked his emails. Your grand disciple Morong Qi was attacked by your good friend Huang Jihao. Both sides were injured. You can find the rest of this content on the Light Novel World.com platform. Your grand disciple Feng Liang was attacked by your good friends Mo Fuzhou and Zhou Fan. He was severely injured and in danger. He comprehended a mystical power and successfully escaped. Your good friend Ji Xianxian was attacked by demon beasts X160105. Your good friend Xian Shishir has ascended. Your good friend Marshal Shun Peng was attacked by the heavenly court's immortals and gods. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren has comprehended the true meaning of heaven and earth. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your pet chaotic heavenly dog was attacked by demon beasts X310229. Your grand disciple Feng Liang comprehended the divinity of heaven and earth and became a god on the spot. Hanju looked down and couldn't help but sigh. It was really exciting. The Khanate Providence bearers also began to fight. They forced each other to become stronger. Could this be the reason why the providence of the Scarlet Cloud world had increased so much? Hanju didn't want to interfere in the chaotic battle between Mo Fuzhou, Zhou Fan, Morong Qi and Feng Liang. Even if someone died, with their providence, they might be stronger when they reincarnated. Several months later, Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune and took out the Heavenly Dao token to check the Heavenly Dao tablet's ranking. Then, he discovered that the Scarlet Cloud world's ranking had soared again. It was already at the 3012th place. Ridiculous. Hanju hurriedly observed the Scarlet Cloud world, and then was shocked. Many experts actually appeared in the world. Although Morong Qi, Feng Liang, Mo Fuzhou, Zhou Fan, and Huang Jihao were strong, they were still far from being the number one in the world. Among the 5 of them, only Morong Qi, Mo Fuzhou, and Huang Jihao were ranked above 90. The cultivators above were mostly from the various holy lands. There were nearly 20 people from the Heavenly Immortal Manor on the list. After Ji Xianxian left, the Heavenly Immortal Manor did not decline. Instead, it became even more prosperous. Hanju observed for a few days. After confirming that there were no devils or demons, he was relieved. Forget it. Hanju sighed in his heart. He couldn't stop those geniuses from cultivating. That would go against his role. This content is taken from Light Novel World.com. He could only pray that the luck of the Scarlet Cloud world would grow slower. 20 years later, Hanju finally broke through to the late stage of the reincarnation true immortal realm. He was already close to the mystic immortal realm. Hanju checked Longshan. He was only at the mid-stage grand unity true immortal realm. You want to enter the golden immortal realm before me? How dare you? Hanju cursed in his heart and continued to consolidate his cultivation. 2 months later, he walked out of the cave abode and gathered everyone under the Fusang tree. Chang Yuer, Fairy Shixian, and Xing Hongxian were also called over. He prepared to preach the Tao to everyone and increase their cultivation. To mortals, the preaching of an immortal was a huge opportunity. Hanju used his Tao voice to let everyone quickly enter a state of enlightenment. During this process, the cultivation questions that everyone found difficult to understand in the past were directly resolved. It was very magical. After a year, Hanju ended the lecture and started to ask them questions. In just a short year, everyone's cultivation levels increased. This was true even for the two golden crows, who had stepped into the loose immortal realm. The most obvious was Zhou Mingyue. It was mainly because his cultivation realm was low. After Hanju's lecture, his talent was completely unlocked. Another half a year passed before Hanju stood up. Xing Hongxian suddenly caught up to him and smiled. "Husband, I want to talk to you for a while. Let's go in." Chang Yuer frowned. Fairy Shixian left. Dao Comprehension Sword was also a little unhappy, but she didn't dare to make a sound. Tu Linger looked at Xing Hongxian enviously. The others pretended not to hear, and continued cultivating. Hanju couldn't reject Xing Hongxian, so he brought her into the cave abode, and let Dao Comprehension Sword wait outside. Should I be more proactive? Chang Yuer thought silently. Updated from Light Novel World. Calm, her eyes were firm. She decided to find Hanju again after some time and force herself on him. As soon as she entered the cave abode, Xing Hongxian leaned towards Hanju like a snake. "Husband, why have you become even more handsome recently? I really like you," Xing Hongxian said in an extremely sweet voice, causing Hanju to have goosebumps. This woman was becoming more and more seductive. Hanju ridiculed in his heart, but he still obediently took off his clothes. It was good to release it occasionally. This would prevent something from going wrong with his state of mind. Heavenly Court, North Heavenly Gate. Ji Xianshan stood in silver armor, surrounded by more than 10 heavenly soldiers. As a low-grade prodigy, Ji Xianshan was arranged to guard the 4 heavenly gates every once in a while. Ji Xianshan was expressionless. His thoughts had long flown outside the heavenly court. The battle last time made me gain a deep understanding. As expected, I still have to fight. I can't always cultivate in seclusion, Ji Xianshan thought silently, deciding to find a few heavenly generals to sweep the demon region next time. At this moment a few immortals flew over. Ji Xianshan and the heavenly troops bowed. "Have you heard? His Majesty invited the Divine Palace for this heavenly peach banquet. If the Buddhists and the demon court join forces, the heavenly court naturally has to rope in the Divine Palace. It's said that the Divine Palace's prodigy is coming." "Who? The reincarnated immortal emperor? How is that possible?" "It's another prodigy, the Sword God Emperor." "Looks like the heavenly peach banquet isn't that simple." Hearing the discussions, Ji Xianshan narrowed his eyes. He had been in the heavenly court for some time, and knew about the Divine Palace. There might not be as many cultivators in the Divine Palace as in the heavenly court, but they had the most geniuses, immortal emperors and great emperors. It's impossible for the two factions to just chat. They will definitely spar and fight in the dark. If I can defeat the Sword God Emperor, won't I be able to soar into the sky? Ji Xianshan thought silently as his eyes lit up. The latest episodes are on the Light Novel World. Com website. He was only a low-grade heavenly general, and didn't know much about the cultivation realm of the immortal world. He didn't know how strong the Sword God Emperor was. However, since he was just a prodigy, it meant that he had yet to mature. Read at Wuxia World. EU. After interacting with Xing Hongxian for a month, Hanju was finally willing to let Dao Comprehension Sword in. After interacting with Xing Hongxian for a month, Hanju was finally willing to let Dao Comprehension Sword in. He ignored her emotions and took out the Book of Misfortune. He couldn't miss his daily mission. He habitually checked his emails. It felt like reading a memorial. The Heavenly Emperor might have felt the same in the Numinous Palace. But Hanju didn't need to deal with anything. He only needed to read. Your good friend Mo Fuzhou was attacked by your grand disciple Feng Liang, and was severely injured. Your good friend Zhou Fan was attacked by your grand disciple Feng Liang, and was severely injured. Your good friend Huang Jihao was attacked by your grand disciple Morong Qi, and was severely injured. Your disciple Sun Chang'an was attacked by a demon king, and was severely injured. Fortunately, your disciple Morong Qi saved him. Your disciple Su Qi spread bad luck. The luck of the Dragon Immortal Island has decreased. Your good friend Di Tai Bai was attacked by a ghost deity, X14. Your good friend Long Shan has received guidance from the Great Emperor. His mystical power has reached greater mastery. Fong Liang is so fierce. He fought single-handedly against Mo Fuzhou and Zhou Fan? Han Ju was stunned and immediately checked Fong Liang. Fong Liang, second level of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. Due to the infusion of providence from heaven and earth, he has cultivated the heaven and earth divine body, and has surpassed mortals. Heaven and earth divine body? This was quite something. Han Ju also noticed that Su Qi had already arrived at the Dragon Immortal Island. Dear disciple, I hope that you can kill Taoist Dan Qing before he causes trouble for me. Han Ju muttered to himself, and revealed a strange smile. Dao Comprehension Sword asked curiously, Who are you talking to? Han Ju said, No one. Master, I'm about to master the first level of the heavenly sword Dao. Dao Comprehension Sword said with a smile. Han Ju said angrily, We'll talk after you master it. How many years has it been? Updated from Light Novel World. Fine. Dao Comprehension Sword had no choice but to continue cultivating. Han Ju ignored her and continued reading his emails. Only he could understand the pleasure of surfing the web. Several months later, the mission was completed. Han Ju first used the Heavenly Dao token to observe Sun Chang'an. He was still very worried about him. This fellow often fell into a love trap. He had been out for so long and didn't know how the situation was. If not for the fact that the spirit chi of the Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain no longer needed Sun Chang'an to strengthen, Han Ju would definitely force him to stay here. At this moment, Sun Chang'an was getting drunk in an inn in the city, and he kept muttering a name. Qianer. Han Ju was really impressed. Was the curse cast by the divine Buddha so terrifying? She had been dead for hundreds of years, but he still couldn't forget her. Han Ju suddenly felt that it might be better to let Sun Chang'an die. In another life, Han Ju would trap him on the mountain without ever seeing a woman. No, this was also not appropriate. What if he targeted the women on the mountain? Then it would become a melodramatic plot. Han Ju thought for a moment. Should he find Qianer's reincarnation? However, Sun Chang'an was so ugly. No matter how many times Qianer reincarnated, she probably would not like him. Sigh. Forget it. He should make the best use of his time to cultivate, and strive to reach the divine Buddha's realm as soon as possible to save Sun Chang'an. Although Morong Qi always despised Sun Chang'an, whenever Sun Chang'an was in danger, he would always be the first to catch up. Sometimes, Han Ju felt sorry for Morong Qi. However, there was no choice. After all, he was the eldest senior brother among Na Ju's third-generation disciples. He had to be a role model. Han Ju felt that the third-generation disciples were much stronger than the second-generation disciples. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel World. Among the second-generation disciples, only Su Qi and Tu Linger were passable. The strongest was Su Qi. Sun Chang'an and Yang Tiandong were too useless. It was time to think of a name for his lineage. Cultivate diligently sect? Cultivate diligently cult? Cultivate diligently mountain? Cultivate diligently cave? Low profile. Cave. Time passed quickly. 10 years were memories, while 100 years were a dynasty. During Han Ju's cultivation, 30 years passed. After 30 years, Han Ju had yet to break through to the perfected reincarnation true immortal realm. But he was not far. After obtaining the stellar primordial body, he still needed so much time. It could be seen that it was really difficult to break through in the true immortal realm. He looked at Longshan again, and saw that he was still in the mid-stage. On this day, Fong Liang returned. His return made everyone under the Fusang tree stand up. All because he had lost an arm. What happened? Who did it? The black hell chicken asked. Fong Liang's hair was a little white. He looked rather experienced, and was no longer the handsome youth from before. Fong Liang smiled bitterly. I broke it myself. Chu Shuren and Zhou Mingyue also looked at him. Zhou Mingyue was especially curious about Fong Liang. Having been on the mountain for so long, he often heard others mention Fong Liang and Morong Qi. It was said that Grandmaster doted on them the most. Nothing. I'll go visit Grandmaster first, Fong Liang said with a smile. With that said, he walked towards the Khanate cave abode. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel World. Han Ju noticed that something was wrong with him, so he chased Dao Comprehension Sword out. allowing the two of them to speak alone. Grandmaster, I finally understand why you didn't come out and why you didn't marry. Feng Liang knelt in front of him and sighed. His face was filled with sorrow. Hanju asked, "What's wrong?" Feng Liang began to talk about his experiences. It turned out that the saintess of the demons he married was the daughter of the Black Fox Demon Emperor. The Black Fox Demon Emperor thought highly of him at first, but Feng Liang realized that the Demon Emperor agreed to this marriage because he wanted to rule both the humans and demons. Not only that, but the saintess also began to persuade Feng Liang. It was only because the Black Fox Demon Emperor promised to give up his position to Feng Liang in the future. How could Feng Liang abandon the human race? After a few twists and turns, the quarrels and ideals had worn down their love, so the couple had still broken up. Feng Liang cut off his arm to show his determination. He wouldn't turn back. The saintess was heartbroken. Her personality had changed drastically, and she was filled with hatred for him. After hearing this, Hanju comforted him. It's fine. In life, such a love tribulation can't be lacking. Just cultivate well in the future. There are many fairies in heaven. There's no need to care about her. Remember, cultivation is the most important. Feng Liang smiled bitterly. Hanju said, "Stay on the cultivate diligently become a mortal mountain. Don't go out anymore." It was to prevent him from helping the Scarlet Cloud world raise its ranking again. Feng Liang nodded and said, "Grandmaster, I don't seem to be a mortal anymore. This feeling is indescribable. Although I'm only at the Tribulation Transcendence realm, Mahayana realm cultivators are already not my match. How strange." Regarding his providence and talent, he had always thought that it was the result of Hanju changing his fate for him back then. So every time others praised him, he would think of Hanju and feel warm inside. Hanju said, "It's nothing. Your uncle Master Su Qi has already ascended. Your goal should be the same as him. Don't use the Mahayana realm in the mortal world as your standard. You might be very strong in the mortal world, but compared to the prodigies of the immortal world, you're not worth mentioning." Feng Liang thought about it and felt that it made sense. Then, Hanju began to teach him a mystical power. He would teach the 10,000 sword sect to Feng Liang, and when he completely grasped it, he would teach him the 3 pure world cleansing. His goal was to let his disciples inherit his various abilities. This way, he would appear unfathomable and omnipotent. 3 months later, Feng Liang walked out of the Khanate cave abode. He was no longer dispirited and became high-spirited again. "WRM King, do you want to spar?" The source of this content is Light Novel World. Feng Liang smiled at the 3-headed WRM King. The 3-headed WRM King thought to himself, "This kid wants to bully me? No, he's only at the Tribulation Transcendence realm. What do I have to be afraid of?" Read at Wuxia World. EU. After Feng Liang returned, the peak of the Cultivate diligently become a mortal mountain was lively for a few days before calm returned. After Feng Liang returned, the peak of the Cultivate diligently become a mortal mountain was lively for a few days before calm returned. After more than 1,000 years of tradition, Hanju's disciples were already used to cultivating diligently. Zhou Mingyue seemed to treat Feng Liang as an imaginary enemy. His cultivation attitude was even harder than before. Hanju began to break through to the perfected reincarnation true immortal realm. 27 years later, Hanju successfully broke through to the perfected reincarnation true immortal realm. He didn't stop to rest. Instead, he continued to consolidate his cultivation. About 5 years later, Hanju had a chance to break through. "Go out first." Hanju opened his eyes and instructed. Hearing this, Dao Comprehension Sword stood up instinctively. She walked to the entrance and suddenly turned around. "Master, I've already mastered the first level of the Heavenly Sword Dao." "That's right. I'll teach you the second level later." Dao Comprehension Sword left her back a little disappointed. Hanju thought to himself, "Am I too ruthless to her? I have to be gentle to her in the future, so that she won't run away." After walking out of the Khanate cave abode, Dao Comprehension Sword happily sparred with Feng Liang. The two of them went to the sky to spar. They were both sword cultivators, and the battle caused a huge commotion, attracting the attention of many cultivators from the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. The Heavenly Sword Dao vs the 10,000 Sword Sect. Han Ju didn't watch the battle and focused on the breakthrough, the stellar primordial body, 6 paths of reincarnation technique, and the 6 paths spirit body. There was almost no doubt that Han Ju would break through. 7 years later, Han Ju successfully broke through. His dermic power soared and his soul transformed. Han Ju was so happy, he immediately opened his attributes panel. Name: Han Ju, lifespan: 1335/120,459,999 race: immortal, stellar primordial body. Visit Light Novel World. Com for a better experience. Cultivation: early stage of the reincarnation mystic immortal realm. 120 million years of lifespan. It was sky high. Han Ju felt like he was going to ascend on the spot. 100 million years of lifespan was unheard of. This was true cultivation. After Han Ju saw the attributes panel, his breathing quickened. As long as he didn't cause trouble and cultivated for 100 million years, if he couldn't reach the zenith heaven, Han Ju would write his name backwards. Han Ju continued to consolidate his cultivation. Half a year later, he finally finished his breakthrough. The first thing was to celebrate with the Book of Misfortune. With such a long lifespan, he could squander it. Each person would be cursed for 7 days. After 5 days, each day would reduce his lifespan. Several months later, Han Ju put down the Book of Misfortune in satisfaction. He began the simulation trial. Long Shan and the others were no longer his match. Thus he directly challenged Di Tai Bai. This time he was not insta-killed by him. The two fought back and forth. After Han Ju used the 3rd level of the Heavenly Sword Dao to split open the primordial world, Di Tai Bai couldn't hold on anymore when the stars appeared. Di Tai Bai had indeed cultivated the Heavenly Sword Dao, and had also cultivated to the 3rd level. Unfortunately, he was still no match for Han Ju. The battle lasted for nearly an hour. After the battle ended, Han Ju frowned. An hour was too long. I'm still not strong enough. That person from the Divine Palace killed a golden immortal at the true immortal realm. When he reaches the mystic immortal realm, he will definitely be able to kill golden immortals instantly. Han Ju thought silently, and the pride in his heart vanished. He tried to fight the Heavenly Emperor, but was insta-killed. Han Ju regained his cautious personality. He was still too weak. For more, visit Light Novel World. Com. If the Heavenly Emperor changed his temperament and wanted to kill him, he wouldn't be able to stop it. He set another goal: surpass the Heavenly Emperor. After thinking, Han Ju called Dao Comprehension Sword in. Dao Comprehension Sword sat on her mat and smiled. Master, you succeeded? Han Ju thought of how he had decided to treat her better, so he smiled and said, Yes, I'll teach you the 2nd level of the Heavenly Sword Dao next. Come over and sit beside me. Dao Comprehension Sword was pleasantly surprised. She had taken human form for hundreds of years, but had never sat on Han Ju's bed. She carefully sat beside Han Ju like a kitten. Han Ju didn't mind. After she sat down, he started to teach her the 2nd level of the Heavenly Sword Dao. After teaching it for a year, he let Dao Comprehension Sword comprehend it by herself. On this day, Di Tai Bai suddenly came to visit. Han Ju chased Dao Comprehension Sword out, and let him enter the cave abode. Your disciples and grand disciples are all very talented. They broke through quite quickly. Di Tai Bai stroked his beard and smiled. He sized up Han Ju. Han Ju saw that his condition was not right. He had been attacked by a ghost deity before. Could it be that his injuries had not recovered? They're passable. Senior, are you here regarding the Heavenly Peach Banquet? Han Ju asked with a smile. Di Tai Bai nodded and waved his right hand, causing 4 fist-sized peaches to appear on the table. The heavenly peaches looked very similar to ordinary peaches, but they were even pinker. The Heavenly Peach Banquet is about to begin. In order to prevent all the heavenly peaches from being eaten, I've brought them to you in advance. Ordinary immortals and gods can only eat 1. Even the Heavenly Mother can only eat 2. Most of His Majesty's sons only have 1 or 2. Those who are extremely talented can only eat 3, Di Tai Bai said enviously. The Heavenly Emperor was really giving a lot to him. After Hanju heard that, his impression of the Heavenly Emperor increased. If he could help the Heavenly Emperor in the future, he would definitely do it, as long as it didn't threaten his life. Help me thank His Majesty. I will remember this favor, Hanju said seriously. He could already sense the boundless immortal qi within the heavenly peaches. As expected of the heavenly court's prized fruit, Di Tai Bai continued with a smile. The prodigies of the divine palace have come to this heavenly peach banquet. The leader is the Sword God Emperor. This person can become an immortal emperor at any time. Although he isn't the leader of the divine palace's younger generation, he's still the #1 sword cultivator. If you were born 100,000 years earlier, you might be able to compete with him and destroy his prestige in the Heavenly Peach Banquet. Sword God Emperor? You can find the rest of this content on the Light Novel World .com platform. Hanju had a strange expression. The Sword God Emperor still had a favorable impression of him. 3 stars in fact. They were all friends. There was no need to show off. The two forces are meeting. Are they going to fight? Hanju asked curiously. According to the plan, the prodigies would definitely fight and suppress each other. Fortunately, he did not go to the Heavenly Peach Banquet. Otherwise he would be in danger. This was definitely the best time to attract hatred. Given how highly the Heavenly Emperor regarded him, it was very likely that he would be sent on stage. The more Hanju thought about it, the gladder he was. Di Tai Bai smiled and said, "Don't worry. The Heavenly Court is not to be trifled with. We also have many prodigies. His Highness Long Shan is not the #1 prodigy of the Heavenly Court. He can only be considered a prodigy." Hanju nodded. That was good. He hoped that nothing would happen to the Heavenly Court. If the Heavenly Court was destroyed not long after he joined, wouldn't he be like the revenge-seeking male protagonist of a fantasy novel? The two of them chatted for a while before Di Tai Bai bid farewell and left. Hanju put away the Heavenly Peaches and took out the Heavenly Dao token. He wondered how the providence of the Scarlet Cloud World had been recently. Soon, Hanju saw the Scarlet Cloud World's ranking. He was speechless. Number 2532. It rose too quickly. Could it be that the providence of the Heavenly Court was declining? Hanju fell into deep thought. Forget it. He would first improve his Sword Dao mystical power and increase his overall strength. Hanju closed his eyes and started to comprehend the 3 pure world cleansing. Soon he entered the Sword Dao River. Seeing Zhang Guxing again, Hanju discovered a figure in front of him. The two of them seemed to be chatting. Zhang Guxing smiled at Hanju and said, "You're here. You came at the right time. You can get to know him. He's a young sword cultivator from the Divine Palace. He's only 3,000 years old and is already at the late-stage Grand Unity True Immortal Realm. He has the potential to become a prodigy." The source of this content is Light Novel World. Read at Wuxia World. EU. Hanju couldn't help but look at the figure in front of Zhang Guxing. It was a silver shadow that couldn't be seen clearly. Hanju couldn't help but look at the figure in front of Zhang Guxing. It was a silver shadow that couldn't be seen clearly. However, Hanju was a reincarnation mystic immortal. With a sweep of his divine sense, he could see this person's appearance. He was dressed in red and had a sword at his waist. He was handsome, with conceit between his eyebrows. He was also sizing up Hanju, a late-stage Grand Unity True Immortal Realm expert of merely 3,000 years old. His potential was indeed impressive. Hanju praised him in his heart. He cupped his fists and said, "I'm Hanju. Greetings, fellow Taoist." The silver figure cupped his hands. Divine Palace Zhujian. Zhujian? What a good name. Hanju didn't know what to say. The other party clearly had no feelings for him. Zhang Guxing asked with a smile, "The Heavenly Peach Banquet is about to begin. With your aptitude, won't the Heavenly Court invite you?" Hanju said, "I'm afraid of trouble and can't be bothered to go. It's better to stay at home and cultivate." Zhu Jian smiled and said, "Indeed. In this Heavenly Peach Banquet, my Divine Palace's Sword God Emperor will definitely be in the limelight. No one from the Heavenly Court should be able to defeat him." Really, this Heavenly Peach Banquet looked like a grand event. but the divine palace wanted to take the opportunity to show off. Hanju wasn't too worried. If the heavenly emperor dared to invite the divine palace, he definitely had the confidence. Senior, I'll be leaving first. Zhu Jian bowed to Zhang Guxing and left. From this attitude, it seemed that Zhang Guxing's status in the divine palace was very high. Even if he left, he would still be respected by the geniuses of the palace. Hanju thought. He didn't dislike Zhu Jian's attitude, and felt that it was normal. Since he wasn't interested in making friends, so be it. He didn't offend Hanju anyway. After Zhu Jian disappeared, Zhang Guxing smiled and said, "The youngsters of the divine palace are like you. They cultivate all year round, and are not good at socializing." Hanju nodded and smiled. "Don't worry. I'm not that calculative." He changed the topic and asked, "Senior, do you know the relationship between Heavenly Emperor and the Divine General?" You can find the rest of this content on the Light Novel World.com platform. You came into contact with them so quickly? There are indeed rumors that the Heavenly Emperor and the Divine General are not on good terms. The Divine General thinks highly of himself. After he grew up, he was dissatisfied with the many decisions made by the Heavenly Emperor. In addition, he achieved great feats and overshadowed his master, so that attracted the guesses of various factions. Of course, these are all rumors. The Divine General still belongs to the Heavenly Court. If you really join the Heavenly Court, don't try to guess their relationship. Only they know whether they are on good terms or not. The only thing that can be certain is that the Divine General only listens to the Heavenly Emperor. Hanju nodded. He felt the same. The mind of an emperor could not be guessed. The two of them chatted for a while more before Hanju bid farewell and left. In the following year, he came several times. Zhang Guxing couldn't help but sigh. Who was the guardian of the Sword Dao River? Why did it feel like Hanju already treated this place as his home? After spending a year raising his Sword Dao to the extreme, Hanju was satisfied. He discovered that he couldn't make the heavenly Sword Dao any stronger. This Sword Dao was already at the limit. Hanju couldn't imagine how strong the person who created it was. Hanju took out a heavenly peach and ate it. The fruit melted the moment it entered his mouth, turning into boundless immortal qi. Hanju immediately circulated his energy to refine it. Several days later, the heavenly peach was digested. Hanju's dermic powers increased greatly, surpassing decades of bitter cultivation. His lifespan also increased by 10,000 years. However, he was still far from the mid-stage of the reincarnation mystic immortal realm. The difficulty of breaking through in the mystic immortal realm was dozens of times higher than that of a true immortal. It seemed that the heavenly peaches weren't very helpful to mystic immortals. This was normal. If the power of the heavenly peach was limitless, the heavenly emperor would be able to produce immortal emperors, or even zenith heavens with the peaches. Hanju decided to keep the remaining 3 peaches for now. What if they had some use later? He picked up the remaining peach core, and let Dao Comprehension Sword bury it under the Fusang tree. What if he could plant a heavenly peach tree? One had to have dreams. It was fine even if it didn't succeed. Dao Comprehension Sword did as told. Visit Light Novel World.com for the best novel reading experience. He continued to cultivate. 10 years later, Hanju stopped cultivating, and took out the Book of Misfortune to curse his enemies. While cursing, he checked his emails. Your good friend Zhou Fan was attacked by a mighty figure. He used a spatial mystical power to dodge, and accidentally left the mortal world. Your grand disciple Morong Qi was attacked by demon beasts X289004. Your enemy Black Fox Demon Emperor was attacked by your grand disciple Morong Qi. He was severely injured and his life was hanging by a thread. Your good friend Ji Xianxian was attacked by your good friend the Sword God Emperor, and was severely injured. Your good friend the Sword God Emperor was attacked by an immortal god X67. Your good friend Long Shan was attacked by your good friend Sword God Emperor, and was severely injured. Your good friend Sword God Emperor was attacked by an immortal god, and was severely injured. Your disciple Su Qi spread bad luck. Taoist Danqing's lifespan has decreased by 10,000 years. The chances of the Dragon Immortal Island encountering a heavenly tribulation have increased. Along the way they were all severely injured. How dangerous. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the sword god emperor was severely injured. This meant that Heavenly Court wasn't suppressed by the Divine Palace. He didn't want the Heavenly Court to be crushed by the Divine Palace at this juncture. On second thought, Hanju felt that his fear was ridiculous. This was the Heavenly Court. Before he joined, Heavenly Court was a huge mountain that made him feel suffocated. After joining, he was worried about it. This was a little like the logic in novels where enemies' factions always seemed overpowered, but quickly weakened once they were on your side. Only by becoming an enemy could he understand how powerful the other party was. Who injured the sword god emperor? Hanju was very curious. The email didn't indicate who it was, which meant that the person didn't have any contact with him. And it wasn't the Divine General. This content is taken from Light Novel World. The Heavenly Court was truly filled with hidden talents. Hanju continued cursing as he thought. 2 years later, Hanju suddenly opened his eyes. He looked up and saw a figure appear in the void above the Scarlet Cloud world. This person was 1,000 feet tall, standing on a 1,000-foot-long flood dragon. He wore a black robe and crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking down at the Scarlet Cloud world. Hanju frowned. Who was this person? The black-robed man slowly raised his right hand. A long sword wrapped in blood aura appeared in his palm. He held the hilt. Oh no! Hanju immediately moved out of the Khanate cave abode and arrived above the Scarlet Cloud world. When the black-robed man waved his sword, Hanju also drew his sword and slashed at the sky. Heavenly Sword Dao. Sword pierces heaven. The black sword chi sword and collided with the black-robed man's sword chi. Boom! The sword chi exploded and swept in all directions. Hanju and the black-robed man's robes fluttered from the wind. The black-robed man looked at him in surprise. A mere mortal world actually has a mystic immortal. The black-robed man thought to himself. His eyes turned ruthless as he brandished his sword again. Hanju was annoyed. Courting death. Without another word, he raised the primordial judgment sword and executed 3 pure world cleansing. 9 sword chi seas appeared in front of him. They were all vertical, like 9 huge discs facing the black-robed man. Countless sword shadows condensed. The black-robed man was surprised and immediately used his mystical power. The flood dragon beneath his feet transformed into a sinister-looking pagoda that covered him. 3 pure world cleansing, 9 heavens erupted again. Every sword chi sea shot out 10 million sword shadows. The source of this content is Light Novel World. Nearly 100 million sword shadows shot out. Hanju didn't hold back as his 6 paths dermic powers poured out. When the sword shadows grew larger and larger in the black-robed man's eyes, he screamed inside. Oh no! Read at Wuxia World. EU. The sword chi formed by hundreds of millions of sword shadows was spectacular. It quickly drowned the black-robed man. Even the giant pagoda formed by the flood dragon was drowned. The sword chi formed by hundreds of millions of sword shadows was spectacular. It quickly drowned the black-robed man. Even the giant pagoda formed by the flood dragon was drowned. In the sword chi, the black-robed man's expression changed drastically. He was terrified. Impossible. Such dermic powers. This sword chi. Was he really only a mystic immortal? The black-robed man gritted his teeth and blocked with his dermic powers. Soon, the huge pagoda covering him shattered at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this rate, his Dharma treasure would shatter in a few seconds. Damn it! The black-robed man shouted. Let's talk nicely. There's no need to kill. Wanderer Tiani has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 5 stars. When Hanju saw the notification, his killing intent soared. He increased his dermic powers and crushed Wanderer Tiani with absolute power. His body and soul were destroyed. It was a complete obliteration. Hanju stopped attacking when he couldn't sense Wanderer Tiani's aura anymore. He then checked his interpersonal relationships and couldn't find Wanderer Tiani. He should be dead. Hanju was in a bad mood. What was going on? He was in seclusion when someone suddenly appeared to destroy his mortal world. He was simply unlucky. Hanju returned to the cave abode. Just as he sat down, a line of words appeared in front of him. As this is your first time killing a Grand Unity Mystic Immortal, you have the following choices. 1. Upgrade the simulation trial function. 2. Upgrade system concealment function. Hanju narrowed his eyes and fell into deep thought. After a while, he chose to upgrade the simulation trial function. This function was too powerful. This content is taken from Light Novel World. Comic could figure out his and the enemy's strength. You chose to upgrade the simulation trial function. Detected that this mortal world belongs to you. The simulation trial's detection range has increased. With this mortal world as the center, the surrounding void is the simulation trial's detection range. This was good. Hanju was pleasantly surprised. He finally increased the detection range. With his current cultivation level, the area within 100 miles of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect was really too small. Hanju immediately started to test the strongest person near the Scarlet Cloud world. Dong Fatian. Early stage Grand Unity Earth Immortal Realm. Heavenly Immortal Manor's Elder. Huh? There was such an expert in the Heavenly Immortal Manor? No wonder the Heavenly Immortal Manor was still around after experiencing so many tribulations and being besieged. Back when Daoist Jian slaughtered his way into the manor, why didn't this person attack? Hanju continued reading and discovered that there were many experts hidden in the Scarlet Cloud world. There were several loose immortals alone. Could these people be the so-called land deities? There were more than 100 Mahayana cultivators. It was ridiculous. Hanju finally realized that he had underestimated the Scarlet Cloud world. Some people hid and couldn't even be detected by the Heavenly Dao token. No wonder the Scarlet Cloud world's ranking kept rising. Hanju watched for a while and then continued cultivating. For years later, Di Taibai came to visit. Hanju told Dao Comprehension Sword to go out and stayed alone with Di Taibai. The Heavenly Peach Banquet has ended. The Divine Palace didn't gain any advantage, so it's a perfect conclusion. Di Taibai smiled, clearly in a good mood. Hanju asked curiously, the Sword God Emperor was defeated? By who? A prodigy. Although he's an immortal god of the heavenly court, he holds the inheritance of the Dao sect and rarely appears. You don't have to ask about his identity. You'll meet him sooner or later. Was the heavenly court related to the Dao sect? Hanju fell into deep thought. The source of this content is Light Novel World. Di Taibai continued. Recently, a force wants to destroy the mortal worlds under the heavenly court. You have to be careful. Hanju couldn't help but say. A few years ago, someone called Wanderer Tianyi arrived. After killing Wanderer Tianyi, Hanju didn't receive any hatred points from the other mighty figures. He couldn't help but suspect that Wanderer Tianyi was an itinerant cultivator. How could lone cultivators provoke the heavenly court? Wanderer Tianyi. Di Taibai's expression changed as he frowned. Thinking of something, he said, Wanderer Tianyi is a mystic immortal. You. Hanju smiled and didn't say anything. Di Taibai was shocked. This kid is already strong enough to kill a mystic immortal? This improvement speed is too ridiculous. Di Taibai took a deep breath and said, Wanderer Tianyi is a powerful itinerant cultivator from the sacred dynasty. It seems that the humans also have differing views about the heavenly court. Hanju asked in surprise. There are dynasties in the immortal world? Of course. There are also humans in the immortal world. Furthermore, there are many of them. They're the protagonists of the heavenly Dao. The heavenly court and the divine palace mostly use humans as the foundation when selecting immortals. Will they come again? I will let the immortal gods specially protect the Scarlet Cloud world. You don't have to worry. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief at Di Taibai's promise. As expected of heavenly court, they had ample resources. Hanju was also afraid of trouble. Di Taibai immediately stood up and said with a smile, Since you know which faction they're from, it's easy to deal with. Wanderer Tianyi is really stupid. He actually told you his identity. Hanju smiled. He stood up to send him away. After Di Taibai left, Hanju walked to the Fusang tree and sized up the earth immortal gourd vine. The seeds of the 7 gourds had already grown into small gourds. The gourd spirits seemed to be about to take form. Hanju was looking forward to it. He probed the peach core buried in the soil with his divine sense. Nothing happened. It seemed that growing a heavenly peach tree was not that simple. Visit Light Novel World. Com for the best novel reading experience. This was normal. If it was so easy to do it, the heavenly peach tree would already be seen everywhere. Grandmaster. A voice interrupted Hanju's thoughts. Zhou Mingyue carefully walked over. He was very nervous. Hanju glanced at him and replied, "Yes?" Zhou Mingyue mustered his courage and said, "Grandmaster, I want to learn spells and mystical powers from you. What must I do to receive your guidance?" Chu Shuren was very lazy when it came to cultivation. He had never learned any mystical powers. There were no mystical powers or spells that he could teach him. Hanju smiled and said, "Then I'll teach you a move." Zhou Mingyue was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly knelt down. He was extremely excited. Not far away, Chu Shuren curled his lips. The black-held chicken teased, "You're really casual as a master. Be careful not to be like your uncle Master Sun Chang'an." Chu Shuren frowned. "My master didn't teach me anything either." Ever since Yang Tiandong knew that he didn't like to cultivate, he ignored him. He had been wandering outside all year round, causing them to have a distant relationship. The black-held chicken shook its head and laughed. Hanju taught Zhou Mingyue the wind god technique and the major Kiliacosm thunderstorm. Zhou Mingyue's potential wasn't bad. Hanju only had to teach him for a few days. 10 years passed in a flash. Hanju opened his eyes and started to test the strongest person around the Scarlet Cloud world. Ever since he was attacked by Wanderer Tianyi, apart from cursing and reading emails every 10 years, Hanju would also check the nearby mighty figures to prevent anyone from launching a sneak attack. Flame Lord Emperor. Late-stage Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. Heavenly Court's third-grade Heavenly General. Hanju subconsciously became nervous when he saw the person's cultivation. However, he heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that this person was from the Heavenly Court. Should I visit him? Hanju thought silently. However, the other party didn't have a favorable impression of him. This meant that he didn't want to befriend him at all. Forget it. He was doing this for work, not to protect him. Hanju started the simulation trial. He wondered if it would take a long time to defeat the Flame Lord Emperor. Follow current novels on Light Novel World. Read at Wuxia World. EU. 5 minutes later, Hanju opened his eyes. 5 minutes later, Hanju opened his eyes. This Flame Lord Emperor was something. At the beginning of the battle, Hanju was completely suppressed. The burning power of the true sun flame was extremely terrifying. Even though Hanju won, he still had a lingering fear. Since he could not insta-kill Flame Lord Emperor, he couldn't provoke him. Hanju thought to himself. After understanding the Flame Lord Emperor's strength, Hanju was relieved. With the protection of such an expert, he didn't have to worry about anyone invading the Scarlet Cloud world. The Flame Lord Emperor meditated in the air and cultivated quietly. He was like a scorching sun that emitted light in the darkness. Hanju played the simulation trial for several hours before continuing to cultivate. In the depths of the void, a man was meditating in a ball of raging flames. He wore a red robe and a golden crown on his head. He emitted the domineering aura of an emperor. He suddenly opened his eyes. Just now, the Flame Lord Emperor frowned. He felt that someone had been spying on him, but he couldn't sense their location. No wonder the Heavenly Emperor had sent him to protect this mortal world. It was indeed very troublesome. The Flame Lord Emperor didn't dare to lower his guard. He immediately waved his hand, and a ball of true sun flame flew out. It quickly split into hundreds of small flames and flew in all directions. In a bustling city, the streets were filled with people. Sun Chang'an stood at the corner of the street and looked over. He was dressed in black and wore a straw hat. Morongqi suddenly appeared behind him and said angrily, "Since you like her, then go see her." Sun Chang'an was frightened by his disciple's voice. He turned around and complained, "Why are you always so elusive? It's you who don't cultivate properly. My cultivation level is too high, so you can't sense it." Morongqi was truly helpless against this master. Those who didn't know would think that he was the master. Sun Chang'an sighed. "She's so good-looking, she definitely won't like me." Morongqi shook his head and said, "You're a great cultivator. She's only a Qi refinement realm cultivator. How can she reject you?" For more, visit Light Novel World. Chiener is not a woman who looks at cultivation level. Then should she look at your face? It's better to look at cultivation level. You unfilial disciple. Sun Chang'an trembled in anger. He wanted to slap Morongqi, but he could not. Morongqi said, "What are you afraid of? You've been looking for her for hundreds of years. Even if you fail, you have to give it a try. I'll help you." Sun Chang'an took a deep breath when he heard this, then mustered his courage to walk over. Morongqi stayed where he was, watching the show. Soon 10 years passed. Hanju was already 1,400 years old. He habitually took out the Book of Misfortune and started to do his daily missions. Ever since Flame Lord Emperor came, no one had attacked the Scarlet Cloud world. Hanju was still a distance away from the mid-stage reincarnation mystic immortal realm, but he was not far. While cursing, he checked his emails. Your disciple Su Qi spread bad luck and caused Taoist Dan Qing to develop inner demons. The Dragon Immortal Island encountered a sea calamity that was difficult to come by in tens of thousands of years and suffered heavy losses. Your good friend Zhou Fan was saved by a mighty figure and entered the immortal world. Your disciple Yang Tiandong left the mortal world. Your Tao companion Xian Qingjun encountered an opportunity and accidentally entered an ancient grotto heaven-blessed land. Your good friend Huang Jihao has comprehended a grand unity sword Tao, and his cultivation has increased greatly. Your pet, the chaotic heavenly dog, was attacked by righteous cultivators. X80393. Your grand disciple Feng Liang comprehended the great Tao during his cultivation. His essence soul has left his body, and he has obtained the great Tao's favor. Hanju continued reading. These 10 years could be considered full of fortuitous encounters. He used his interpersonal relationships to check Xian Qingjuan's cultivation level, the perfected Grand Unity Earth Immortal Realm. Although she couldn't compare to Hanju, at least she was improving. Hanju was still very concerned about his first Tao companion. Although Xian Qingjun had the intention to force him, she had always been the one offering things to him. Hanju looked forward to the scene when they met again. What if Xian Qingjun knew his cultivation level? I can't think about it anymore. He couldn't help but want to come out of seclusion. The heavenly Tao is torturing me again. Hanju cursed silently. Several months later, Hanju cursed all his enemies and put down the Book of Misfortune in satisfaction. Tao Comprehension Sword said, "Master, the 9 Heavens Galaxy water has changed." Hanju turned around. The 9 Heavens Galaxy water was in the corner of the cave abode. After hundreds of years, it had become a small pool. The water surface was glowing with silver light. Hanju saw something, and his expression changed slightly. He immediately stood up and walked over. An image of a city appeared in the 9 Heavens Galaxy water. People came and went, and many cultivators were flying above the city. It was like a water screen scene. Hanju was shocked and couldn't understand what he was seeing. The 9 Heavens Galaxy water had such a function? He wondered where the city and the water came from. Hanju was puzzled. Ask if you don't understand. Let's look for my good brother. Hanju immediately returned to his bed and began to comprehend the Sword Tao. Soon, he arrived at the Sword Tao River and found Zhang Guxing. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel World. Brother, have you heard of the 9 Heavens Galaxy water? Hanju asked. Zhang Guxing was cultivating when he was interrupted by him. A little puzzled, he said, I know. You encountered the legendary holy water? This kid's potential was terrifying, and his providence was enviable. Hanju said, when I was training, I encountered a pool of water. It's the 9 Heavens Galaxy water. I saw a city on the water surface. Why is that? This good brother was amazing, he knew everything. The 9 Heavens Galaxy water is the heavenly water. It lets you see the myriad worlds in its reflection. The water surface shows the scene of the Son of Heaven and Earth in a certain world. The so-called Son of Heaven and Earth can be called the protagonist of the heavenly Tao. The human race is the protagonist of the heavenly Tao, so the human race can dominate the myriad worlds. In the mortal worlds, the heavenly Tao will also choose the Son of Heaven and Earth. In the immortal world, many large factions rely on the 9 Heavens Galaxy water to find new members with good potential, Zhang Guxing replied. Hanju was enlightened. Would Feng Liang be targeted? It was really possible. This fellow had been taught by an immortal god in his dreams. He had even dreamed of entering the ancient era. Perhaps it was done by some mighty figure. Hanju didn't chat with him anymore and quickly left. Zhang Guxing was depressed. What did this kid take him for? He came and left as he pleased. After returning to the Khanate cave abode, Hanju came to the Nine Heavens Galaxy water again. He looked carefully, wanting to see who the son of heaven and earth in this world was. The Nine Heavens Galaxy water seemed to sense Hanju's thoughts. The scene changed and appeared in a courtyard. Under the willow tree, a woman in white was meditating. Her face was devastatingly beautiful, and her long hair fluttered in the wind. In her cultivation, she formed a beautiful painting with the willow tree behind her. This is the son of heaven and earth? Curious, Hanju probed with his divine sense. He was pleasantly surprised to find that he could spy on this mortal world through the Nine Heavens Galaxy water. Hanju was afraid of provoking other great cultivators, so his divine sense stopped in this courtyard. This woman's cultivation was already at the Mahayana realm. Detected bearer of Khanate providence, check its origin. This content is taken from Light Novel World. A line of words appeared in front of Hanju. He immediately chose to check. Read at Wuxia World. EU. Li Yao. 5th level of the Mahayana realm, son of heaven and earth, descendant of an immortal emperor, born with an accompanying heavenly phoenix, brings blessing to the mortal world she is in, cultivated for 700 years, and has reached the Mahayana realm. She is cautious by nature and hates fighting. She likes to cultivate. Li Yao. 5th level of the Mahayana realm, son of heaven and earth, descendant of an immortal emperor, born with an accompanying heavenly phoenix, brings blessing to the mortal world she is in, cultivated for 700 years, and has reached the Mahayana realm. She is cautious by nature and hates fighting. She likes to cultivate. Hanju looked at the message in front of him with a strange expression. This description, it was like a female version of him. Hanju immediately had a good impression of Li Yao. They were like-minded. Hanju found Li Yao more and more pleasing to the eye. Li Yao, who was quietly cultivating, was like a fairy. The scene was so harmonious. After watching for a while, Hanju retracted his divine sense. He didn't disturb her. Who knew which mortal realm Li Yao was in? Master, what's going on? Is there a world hidden in the water? Dao Comprehension Sword asked. Hanju didn't hide anything, and explained Heavenly Water's ability. Dao Comprehension Sword was shocked. This water could actually spy on other worlds. It was truly impressive. Hanju meditated again, and continued cultivating. In a peach forest, a woman in a green dress stood under a tree, waiting shyly and expectantly. She had a beautiful face, and looked around from time to time. In the distance, 2 people stood behind a tree. They were Morongqi and Sun Chang'an. Morongqi urged, Master, what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for you. Sun Chang'an wore a bamboo hat, and a veil covered his face. He was extremely nervous. Don't worry. You've protected her for 10 years. She already treats you as her sweetheart. Go. Morongqi pushed him out. Sun Chang'an was almost pushed down by him. This brat didn't know his limits. Sun Chang'an cursed silently before mustering his courage to walk towards the woman in the green dress. In next to no time, the woman in a green dress saw Sun Chang'an walk over. Sun Chang'an wore a bamboo hat and black clothes. His aura was extraordinary, and it conformed to the woman's expectations of mighty cultivators. Visit Light Novel World. Calm for a better experience. He has been secretly protecting me. The woman in the green dress had a dazed expression as she looked at Sun Chang'an. Seeing her expression, Sun Chang'an was excited. Qianna was finally going to be his. Sun Chang'an quickened his pace. When he arrived in front of the woman in the green dress, he fell silent again, not knowing what to say. For a moment, the peach blossom forest was silent. The woman in the green dress bit her lips and said, Why have you always? Sun Chang'an suppressed his excitement and said, I've been looking for you for hundreds of years. In my previous life, you grew up with me. You're the love of my life. His confession made the woman's neck and ears turn red. Several hundred years. The woman in the green dress was completely entranced. How many women in the world could withstand such confessions and devotion? The woman in the green dress asked nervously, "Can I see your face?" Sun Chang'an hesitated. The woman in the green dress raised her hand and gently removed his veil. The next second, she shuddered and took a step back. This step was like a basin of cold water that extinguished the flames in Sun Chang'an's heart. Sun Chang'an smiled bitterly and asked, "Am I very ugly?" The woman in the green dress was silent. She wanted to say that it was fine, but he was really too ugly. She had never seen such an ugly person. He wasn't deformed or anything, but ugly in the truest sense. The woman in the green dress hesitated. Sun Chang'an was furious, but he had long thought of such a possibility, so he did not despair. He had already experienced despair, and was no longer afraid of it. Sun Chang'an asked in pain, "Then I'll leave?" Since they couldn't meet, he would continue to hide in the dark and protect her for life. The latest episodes are on the light novel world.com website. "Sigh, don't go." The woman in the green dress sighed. Her words improved Sun Chang'an's mood again. Could it be that Chinner didn't mind his ugliness in this life? In the distance, Morong Chi burst into maniacal laughter. He tried his best to suppress his voice and kept pounding the tree trunk. He was about to die of laughter. 30 years had passed since Han Ju discovered Li Yao. He had finally reached the mid-stage reincarnation mystic immortal realm. Although the speed of breaking through was slower than before, it was still acceptable to Han Ju. In the past 30 years, whenever he cursed his enemies, he would also take a look at Li Yao. This woman really knew how to cultivate diligently. She sat under the willow tree for 30 years without moving. It was worth mentioning that no one came to disturb her. Logically speaking, being in a city would always cause one to be disturbed. It wasn't a paradise. Perhaps the mortal world Li Yao lived in was much more powerful than the Scarlet Cloud world. It was precisely because of this that people were used to cultivation. 30 years was not a long time for them. After breaking through, Han Ju took out the Book of Misfortune to celebrate. As he cursed, he checked the strongest person around the Scarlet Cloud world. Marshal Shenpeng. Perfected Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. Second grade Heavenly General of the Heavenly Court. Han Ju was puzzled. Why was Marshal Shenpeng here? He didn't extend his divine sense to avoid disturbing the two gods. Several months later, Han Ju checked again. Marshal Shenpeng was still there. Thus, Han Ju began to use the simulation trial to challenge him. An hour later, he opened his eyes with a strange expression. He had actually lost. They were both perfected Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm cultivators. Even Di Tai Bai could not defeat him, but Marshal Shenpeng could. Moreover, Han Ju was suppressed the entire time. Wow! As expected of the Heavenly Court's marshal, his combat strength was quite impressive. Follow new episodes on the light novel world.com platform. Han Ju guessed that Marshal Shenpeng should be on the same level as the Divine Palace's Sword God Emperor. After about 3 years, Marshal Shenpeng left. Han Ju found it strange. What was there to talk about between these two? Couldn't they chat in Heavenly Court? Han Ju stood up and came to the Nine Heavens Galaxy water. He continued to look at Li Yao. Dao Comprehension Sword asked, "Master, do you like her?" Every 10 years he would stare at Li Yao. Han Ju replied, "A little." Dao Comprehension Sword was even more displeased. After so many years, Li Yao's cultivation level had already reached the 8th level of the Mahayana realm. Not long later, she would probably be able to ascend. Han Ju hesitated to contact her. As a providence bearer, she would definitely go far in the future. Han Ju could invite her to the Cultivate Diligently Become Immortal Mountain and discuss the Tao of Seclusion together. Cough cough. The Tao of Diligent Cultivation. Han Ju cursed silently. On this day, Li Yao was finally disturbed. It was her father, Li Tianxin. "Yao, you're about to reach the loose immortal. You should also get married. What do you think of the young master of the Lu family? His master is a Grand Unity Heaven immortal." Li Tianxin chuckled and asked. Li Yao frowned and said, "Father, I don't want to get married. I only want to cultivate. Don't always think of relying on others. Give me time. I'll lead the Li family to unprecedented prosperity. Li Tianxin shook his head and laughed. Our cultivation is not so simple. You need opportunities. If you cultivate diligently all day, you will find it difficult to take a single step after reaching the immortal realm. That's because Father doesn't know my talent. Even if I'm in the immortal world, I can still surpass others with my own potential. Yao, this is a rare opportunity. You can't miss the fact that the young master of the Lu family likes you. Father, I really can't agree. This matter is settled. Start preparing. Why would I harm you? I'm doing this for your own good. With that, Li Tianxin left. This content is taken from Light Novel World. Calmly Yao sat under the tree and frowned. Read at Wuxia World. EU. After Li Tianxin left, Li Yao quickly entered a cultivation state. Han Ju was speechless. This woman was really nonchalant. If it was anyone else, they would definitely cause a commotion now. Han Ju didn't think too much and continued to cultivate on the bed. As for Li Yao's calamity, he had no intention of interfering for the time being. From Li Yao's attitude, it was obvious that she was fearless. 2 years later, Di Taibai came to visit. His expression was solemn. It was obvious that something big had happened. Han Ju told Dao Comprehension Sword to leave the cave abode. After Di Taibai sat down, he was the first to sigh. Han Ju asked carefully, "What? Did something happen to the heavenly court?" Di Taibai said in a low voice, "Something big has happened." Han Ju's heart skipped a beat. Crap. His backing was about to collapse? A heavenly concubine of the heavenly emperor has given birth to another son. He has a strong providence and is a natural-born supreme being. Dao Lord said that he can become the next heavenly emperor and is the hope of the heavenly court's rise. Di Taibai suddenly smiled. Han Ju was stunned. That's it. He acted as if the sky had collapsed. Han Ju almost cursed. He said perfunctorily, "Congratulations." Di Taibai smiled and said, "Since you asked if anything happened, I had to take the opportunity to scare you." Han Ju was helpless. You're the leader of the literature immortals after all. Aren't you afraid of damaging your reputation? So, Han Ju continued to ask. Follow current novels on Light Novel World. So the heavenly court wants to hold a grand banquet. Are you going? Can I not go? Haha, I knew you didn't want to go. His Majesty also guessed it, so he didn't want to invite you at all. Hehe. Han Ju's face twitched. He wanted to ask Di Taibai. Do you think you're funny? Di Taibai said seriously, back to the topic. His Majesty wants to send His Little Highness to you. Are you willing to accept him? Han Ju was stunned. You want to take advantage of my spirit qi? However, upon thinking that the heavenly emperor treated him well, he had no reason to refuse. The heavenly emperor's intentions were obvious. He wanted to completely rope him in. Han Ju felt that the heavenly emperor had underestimated him. If he really encountered an irresistible danger, he would definitely leave his disciples behind. He would just do his best. There was no need to die on the same day, year, and month as them. Han Ju said, "Is he just staying here temporarily, or do you want me to take him in as my disciple?" Di Taibai said meaningfully, "Take him in as a disciple." To be honest, he couldn't understand why the heavenly emperor was doing this. He felt that the heavenly emperor thought too highly of Han Ju. Although his talent was comparable to the divine general, he didn't spend so much effort back then. Sure. Han Ju agreed. Di Taibai nodded and said, "Recently, the immortals and gods in the heavenly court are trying to rope in people. If anyone looks for you, you have to tell me immediately. This isn't a good thing." Upon hearing this, Han Ju thought of the previous Marshal Shunpeng and Flame Lord Emperor. He hesitated for a moment and said, "Previously, Marshal Shunpeng came to look for the Flame Lord Emperor. The two of them stayed together for many years. Don't say that I'm the one who told you." Di Taibai frowned and muttered, "It's Marshal Shunpeng again." "I understand. Continue cultivating." Di Taibai vanished into thin air. He was even more anxious than before. It seemed that Marshal Shunpeng had not only found the Flame Lord Emperor. Hanju mocked secretly. I really think I'm a dog of the heavenly court now. You can find the rest of this content on the Light Novel World.com platform. It had to be said. This feeling was fantastic. Currently, the heavenly court didn't treat him like a dog. They supported him greatly, but he had never contributed anything significant. Since he was already tied to the heavenly emperor, Hanju had to help stabilize the heavenly emperor's position. Even if he didn't, he had to provide information. Hanju stood up and walked out of the Khanate cave abode. The son of the heavenly emperor will come. You have to cultivate well. Don't be an embarrassment when the time comes, Hanju said to the people cultivating. Everyone stood up. Feng Liang said in surprise, Son of the heavenly emperor? We can't compare at all. The battle in the heavenly court hundreds of years ago was still fresh in his mind. Longshan's power left all mortals in the dust. The black hell chicken shouted, You fool, how can the heavenly emperor only have one son? The others couldn't help but look at Hanju. That's right. He's the youngest son of the heavenly emperor. He's newly born, and will become my new disciple. Hanju smiled teasingly. Everyone was shocked. Zhou Mingyue asked nervously, Heavenly Emperor? Is that the Lord of the Heavenly Court? The three-headed WRM king chuckled. That's right, it's that person. If our master becomes the master of the son of the heavenly emperor, it shows how high master's cultivation level is. Tu Linger and Dao Comprehension Sword looked at Hanju in admiration. Hanju had always been in the cave abode, but he could attract immortals to him. It was hard to imagine how strong he was. Chu Shuren asked curiously, Grandmaster, is the heavenly emperor the strongest person at the peak of cultivation? Hanju understood what he was thinking and smiled. That's not the case. Otherwise, the devil race would have long ceased to exist. There would be no need for the heavenly emperor to send his precious youngest son here. Chu Shuren was deep in thought. All right, you can continue cultivating. I've informed you in advance. Don't be shocked when the time comes. Hanju walked to the Fusang tree after saying this. He began to stretch his muscles and observe the divine tree. The Fusang tree was the main pillar of his cultivation. He couldn't afford to lose it. Fortunately, the Fusang tree had always been healthy. With so many disciples and divine pets protecting it, at least no power in the mortal world could destroy it. 7 years later, the son of the heavenly emperor had been sent by Di Tai Bai. He was only 7 years old and wore a golden robe. He was very cute as his watery eyes looked around curiously. Di Tai Bai put him down and pointed at Hanju. From now on, he's your master. You must listen to him and cultivate well. Don't cause trouble. The son of the heavenly emperor stared at Hanju, not nervous at all. After all, he was the son of the heavenly emperor. He had seen various immortal gods already. How could he be afraid now? Detected bearer of Khanate Providence, check its origin. Hanju looked at the line of words that had suddenly appeared in front of him and silently chose to check. Longhao, 9th level of the loose immortal realm. Son of the heavenly emperor. Born as an emperor, the reincarnation of Hao Tian. He was the second-generation lord of the heavenly court, the strongest heavenly emperor ever. He died in the immeasurable calamity. In order to take revenge, he killed his way back to the great Tao. His soul entered the womb of the heavenly concubine and became the son of the heavenly emperor. When he becomes an immortal emperor, Hao Tian will awaken and possess the body. Hao Tian, the strongest heavenly emperor. Hanju was secretly shocked. There was more than one heavenly emperor? Wait, did the heavenly emperor know about this? Hanju didn't expect the son of the heavenly emperor to have such a powerful background. Could it be that the heavenly emperor had sent him to the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain to let him cultivate to the immortal emperor realm in peace? But what was with possessing the body? Could it be that Long Hao has two souls? This was not Hao Tian's soul now. Master, please accept me as your disciple. Long Hao knelt in front of Hanju and began to kowtow. He was very cute. Dao Comprehension Sword and Tu Linger's hearts almost melted. Hanju waved his hand and used his dermic powers to raise him. From now on, you're my 5th disciple. Hanju smiled and looked at the others. In the future, He will also cultivate under the Fusang tree. All of you must take care of him. Also don't fight with him. Although he's 7 years old, his cultivation is already beyond the Mahayana realm. Everyone was shocked. Surpassing the Mahayana realm at the age of 7? The two golden crows looked at Long Hao with jealousy. If they had such talent, they wouldn't have been expelled from the Golden Crow Divine Clan. Read at Wuxia World. EU. With the addition of Long Hao, the cultivate diligently become immortal mountain became lively. At first, Chu Shuren was the most interested in Long Hao and chased him all day. With the addition of Long Hao, the cultivate diligently become immortal mountain became lively. At first, Chu Shuren was the most interested in Long Hao and chased him all day. It was only when he came to the Khanate cave abode and complained that Hanju let the three-headed Wurm king take care of Long Hao and forbade people from approaching him. Chu Shuren actually urged Long Hao not to cultivate. This made him extremely disgusted. Hanju didn't pay too much attention to Long Hao. He would leave the matter of raising the child to the others. In Hanju's opinion, Long Hao was only a guest. He couldn't stay by his side forever, and wouldn't treat him like an elder in the future. In Long Hao's heart, the most important person was definitely the Heavenly Emperor. Hanju didn't try to teach Long Hao anything. If he really changed, the Heavenly Emperor would definitely notice. Cultivation was the most important. Long Hao's appearance made Hanju think of many things. The position of Heavenly Emperor could actually be changed. If Hao Tian awakened, he might covet the Heavenly Emperor position again. What Hanju wanted to do was to become stronger before the Heavenly Emperor's fall. By then, even if he didn't rely on the Heavenly Court, no one would dare to provoke him. Another 10 years passed. Hanju woke up from his cultivation. He took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing the enemy. While cursing, he checked his emails. Your good friend Ji Xianxian was attacked by a mighty figure of the immortal world and was severely injured. Your good friend Sword God Emperor was attacked by demon beasts X270321. Your good friend Sword God Emperor was attacked by a demon race's immortal emperor and was severely injured. Your disciple Sun Chang'an's Tao heart has transformed and awakened a relic. Your divine pet, the chaotic heavenly dog, chanced upon an opportunity and obtained an ancient demon king's golden core. Your good friend Marshal Shunpeng was attacked by heavenly troops X103872. Your good friend Marshal Shunpeng was attacked by your good friend, the divine general. He was severely injured. Your good friend Zhou Fan obtained a fortuitous encounter. His domination physique has transformed. Visit Light Novel World. Com for a better experience. The heavenly court was in chaos. Ji Xianxian got injured. Hanju noticed Marshal Shunpeng's miserable situation and couldn't help but blame himself. It was definitely related to him complaining earlier. Although he blamed himself, Hanju didn't regret it. If Marshal Shunpeng really destroyed the heavenly court, he would lose his backing. Moreover, the heavenly court definitely had its own considerations. They couldn't kill a god just because of a word from him. However, Zhou Fan impressed him. This fellow directly skipped the heavenly tribulation and went to the immortal world to play. Amazing. Without Zhou Fan's company, would Mo Fuzhou be lonely? Hanju thought. Several months later, he put down the Book of Misfortune and took out the Heavenly Tao token to check the rankings on the Heavenly Tao tablet. Hanju felt depressed. The ranking rose again. Number 1997. It rose another few hundred places. How ridiculous. Hanju felt that the Scarlet Cloud world was stirring up trouble. If this continued, it would attract attention sooner or later. Not only Heavenly Court, but there were also other large forces. Previously, a mysterious sacred dynasty had come to destroy the Heavenly Court's mortal world. Hanju could only pray that the mortal worlds higher in the ranking were powerful and difficult to surpass. Then, Hanju stood up and came to the Nine Heavens Galaxy water. Liao was still cultivating. The latest episodes are on the Light Novel World. Com website. Hanju found it strange. Li Tianxin arranged a marriage for her. But why was she so indifferent? Wait. This fellow had actually broken through to the loose immortal realm. Interesting. No wonder she was so fearless. Hanju watched for a while before returning to cultivate. Li Yao's appearance was just like entertainment to him. It was like watching a drama. He didn't want to participate, and only wanted to watch. She has already broken through to the loose immortal realm. You have to hurry, Hanju said to Dao Comprehension Sword. Dao Comprehension Sword curled her lips and said, "The heavenly sword Dao is too difficult to cultivate. It's delaying my cultivation realm. Then increase your cultivation level first and cultivate later. Then, I can definitely break through to the loose immortal realm. I don't want to hear can, but soon." Fine. Dao Comprehension Sword was agitated. She couldn't lose to that woman. Hanju smiled in satisfaction. Dao Comprehension Sword's potential was still very strong. In addition to the spirit chi of the cultivate diligently become immortal mountain, her cultivation speed was naturally not slow. However, she had been comprehending the heavenly sword Dao. Numinous Palace. The heavenly emperor sat on the emperor's throne. There were only two immortals in the hall, Di Tai Bai and the divine general. Di Tai Bai asked, "Divine General, has Marshal Shunpeng confessed?" The divine general replied, "No. He doesn't want to talk about the faction behind him, but I'm guessing it's related to the Buddhists. His master should be one of the great Buddhas. He's very likely the Supreme Buddha, who has disappeared for a long time." Supreme Buddha. Di Tai Bai's expression changed slightly. The heavenly emperor said slowly, "If it's the Supreme Buddha, it might not be related to the Buddhists. I'm thinking that other than the Divine Palace, Buddhist sect and Demon Court, there might be another behemoth hiding in the dark, such as the three factions of the Dao sect who were desolate during the Divine Investiture calamity." His tone was calm, but it moved Di Tai Bai and the Divine General. This content is taken from Light Novel World. The Divine Investiture calamity was a legendary calamity. It had occurred deep in the long river of history. The Divine General frowned. Didn't the Dao ancestor order the Dao sect to no longer participate in the battle of the heavenly Dao? The heavenly emperor replied, "That was in the past. Now that the Dao ancestor has been in seclusion for countless years, if the ancient existences of the Dao sect want to break through to become stronger, they have to fight for the providence of the heavenly Dao." The Dao Lord's arrival was a sign. Di Tai Bai frowned and asked, "Then what should we do about the heavenly court? There are too many immortal gods of the Dao sect mixed into the heavenly court." During the ancient divine investiture battle, the Dao ancestor forced the cultivators of the three factions of the Dao sect to become gods of the heavenly court. If the Dao sect makes a comeback, they will definitely defect. What's there to be afraid of? The heavenly court has the 4 extreme emperors, 3 divine generals, and 36 immortal monarchs, and prodigies like Hanju are still growing. I have long prepared for such concerns. The heavenly emperor said domineeringly, not afraid of the 3 factions of the Dao sect at all. The divine general asked, "How's Hanju's cultivation?" Di Tai Bai stroked his beard and smiled. "He killed a mystic immortal not long ago. That's not bad. This child's personality is the opposite of yours. He's suitable to guard the heavenly court in the future. Yes, I also think highly of him. Although he likes to cultivate diligently, he's definitely not afraid of trouble when it comes." The divine general smiled and looked forward to Hanju's future. The heavenly emperor said, "Continue the investigation. All the immortals and gods colluding with Marshal Shunpeng have to be investigated clearly. If they resist, kill them directly. It's time for the parasites to be purged. In addition, investigate some of Jade Emperor Hao Tian's old accomplices. If there are still ancient gods who believe in him, record them down. I'll remove their divine positions." Di Tai Bai hurriedly replied, "Yes." The divine general added, "Don't worry, Your Majesty. As long as I'm here, I will ensure that Your Majesty's position will last forever." His expression was solemn, and his eyes were determined. Spring passed and autumn came. Another 20 years passed. Hanju had yet to break through, but his dermic powers were constantly increasing. The time needed to defeat Di Tai Bai was also decreasing. On this day, Hanju was cursing the enemy when he suddenly felt a terrifying pressure envelop the scarlet cloud world. This pressure was only directed at the immortals, so mortals couldn't sense it. Hanju hurriedly checked the strongest person around the Scarlet Cloud world. Dragon subduing Buddha. Late-stage Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. Divine Buddha of the Buddhist sect. Hanju frowned. Divine Buddha of the Buddhist sect? He immediately thought of Sun Chang'an. Was he here to find him? The latest episodes are on the light novel world. Com website. Hanju searched for the other party's location and found that the dragon subduing Buddha was in the void, stopped by the Flame Lord Emperor. The two of them were both at the late-stage Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm and were at odds. Read at Wuxia World. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.